have a new recording app I want to try out. Yep. That's happening right now too. I go for redundancy. This will be the day where I think I finally figure out which one works the best. And I'm hoping that that one works the best, so I don't do this one every single time.
I really shouldn't have wrote ASCP, I never do, but I didn't explain why. Today, they want to come up and...
Well, they need to.
So Nick was on the other night. He said he did a quick list that he submitted somewhere. I think he did it the other night. He said he did another one. No? Okay. Cheap. But even if I got 20 of them, I can do. If it's handwritten,
At least.
can you give me a handful tonight after the meeting? Or
Okay.
photocopy a list.
But I haven't made up yet.
Whatever you got, it's a start. So.
Are you all ready?
Ready?
Like I've been waiting for you this whole time. Definitely not the case. Definitely
Do you notice I moved over a little to get out of the line of fire here?
All right, we're going to start this meeting at 6:07, a few minutes late. My apologies. I'd like to start the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And a moment of silence as we think about those who've gone before us. Thank you.
Here we go. You're on.
Anne's already sick of me. She's leaving.
She needs her notepad.
All right. In a moment, when Anne gets back, we will do roll call. And then we will transition into honoring Matt Bolson. Matt, where are you? Awesome. Of course, dressed in Scouts uniform. Give me one moment.
Yes, sir.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Lewis. I mean, Vanessa Lewis. That's her name. She's absent.
She is absent.
Yeah.
She's on a field trip with her child at MoMA.
Trustee Pine.
Aye.
Bushner.
We were voting yes, but I'm here. Yes.
And Bob has. He's absent.
Bobby is not going to make it tonight.
No. Trustee Patton.
Here.
And O'Malley.
Here.
Although he really wanted to be here.
He's a little shook up.
Yeah, he would also want his truck to be working. All right. So I want to start off by recognizing Matthew Bolson of Boy Scout Troop 63 on his Eagle Scout Court of Honor. Matt, could you give us an idea of what you had to do to achieve Eagle Scout?
Yeah, sure.
And you can stand up, please.
Sure.
For my Eagle Scout project, I worked on wood duck conservation, which included the creation of several wood duck boxes. After the last large flood we had in town, a great number of them were either destroyed, and after the years since the last set were made, a lot more were in disrepair. So it was due time for more to be made. So with the help of the Pioneer Fishing Game Club, me and Troop 63 were able to create enough to reset Rensselaer County and more.
Wow. So how many boxes did you make?
We made 14 or 15, I believe.
And they're all throughout Rensselaer County?
Yes.
Wow. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. And when did you it was officially in May, I think, was the award ceremony? Or is it in here somewhere?
Yes,
My
May
pocket.
5th.
That's May 5th, that's right. And I was unable to attend, but this is a tremendous thank you for the work that you've done. This is a great achievement. You do our community proud. I got to know him first just as a student who I got to know as a really nice kid in school. And this is quite an achievement. So congratulations, Matt. Can I get a picture with you?
Oh, sure.
Mr. Bushner?
Yes, sir.
And come on, right over here by the door. You get a picture with this guy.
You gotta get your selfie game up.
There we go.
Alright. Congratulations, Matthew. So let's go back to the regular. Smile, take it out on 3. 1, 2, 3. Blink on 2. Yeah, whatever. You're good.
Hey,
Beautiful.
congratulations. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Read it or send it to you.
Sneaking behind you. Send it to me, please. Oh, either's fine. I think it would be great. Okay, move on to our first correspondence. This is a, ooh, really? Okay, do that in a moment. This is a thank you note that I received from Den 5, the Cub Scouts Pack 64, who I got to go speak with and share a little bit about what it's like to be a mayor. They were very eager to hear about how I balanced 2 jobs. So was I, and it was a really nice time. And they asked great questions. And of course, the one question that got me is, "Are you gonna run again?" Oh, you're kids. You're not supposed to ask that. I mean, no, it was a really nice time, and they were really, really great and well behaved and really interested in a lot of things, and they asked a lot of good questions. So I just want to pass it around. The next thing I want to do is I just received a note that it is Winnie Rustino's birthday today.
Yes, it is.
Congratulations. 39.
She reversed that.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Congratulations.
Turn the numbers around.
That's fine. That's fine. Hey, you call it. We'll go with it. Absolutely. All right. We have Tom. Is Tom Valone here?
Yes.
Awesome. Tom, from the LDC, we talked last time about the carved owl. Do you have anything more to share with us?
Only what I said in the letter.
Okay. Do you want me to just read it?
Sure.
Okay. At your April meeting, I presented a proposal to purchase and paint a wooden carved owl, which would be placed on the lower front roof peak of the municipal building. Loudspeakers will be mounted near the owl so that it would seem to hoot each evening at dusk. The Hoosick LDC, Local Development Corporation, has offered to pay for the cost of the owl and the necessary equipment to complete the projects. In regard to other details, the owl will be carved by Tree Craft in Brunswick, after which it will be treated with linseed oil so as to minimize cracking, which almost always happens with this sort of wooden sculpture. We appreciate and accept the offer from Vanessa Lewis, trustee, to help paint the sculpture, which should stand about 30 inches tall. A timer in a small electric box, probably best located within the village office and connected to power there, will be installed, and a wire will need to extend from there to the front of the building so as to power 1 or 2 loudspeakers. Some assistance would be appreciated in running the wire from the timer to the front of the building and also in the mounting of the speakers and the owl itself. Please confirm this project has the approval of the board so that we may proceed with the purchase of the owl and move ahead with the installation. I feel like we've already approved this. Have we already approved it?
When I was here,
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a meeting in between and you did approve it, but when I was at the last meeting, I asked you if I could proceed, and you asked me if I could hold off for the time being, and Ben Patton asked if more information could be forthcoming. So that's the reason for the letter.
Do you want to see this? No, that's good. A lot of the details we'd asked about are in there, so that's really helpful, and we should be able to get help to get the wiring done. And actually, I had heard some people talking and asking about it, and they were wondering if we were the ones financing this. So it was nice to hear that you guys were doing that, and we've known that from the beginning, and that's great. So it looks like we need a motion to approve this.
Motion.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on this project with the carved owl? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So I'll proceed. I will order the sculpture.
Okay.
And then at the point in time when the sculpture's here, I'll coordinate with Vanessa for the painting.
Okay.
But then when it comes to the installation, whom would I talk to?
It's probably either going to be Neil or Jerry, depending on who's best to do the electric work.
Okay.
And if not, we'll find someone to do that.
Right.
Neil, does that sound all right? He nods with a smile and his yes.
I believe I have Neil's email address, so
There you go.
I'll be in touch.
All right. Here's the letter, by the way, so you guys can take a look at it as well.
Okay,
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Tom.
Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, and we have a request to use Wood Park on Sunday, July 1st. This is a free farewell concert done by Carrie Annan, who I got to see at the Duck Derby. That is Jackie and Brendan McGuire, formerly Jackie Ravane. And they are going to be heading to Tennessee in a few weeks and would like to host the concert in the park. Has that date changed, or is that the same date? They had talked when I saw them. They possibly were changing.
No, same day.
Oh, you guys are here. Oh, fantastic. Oh, they're right back
We
there.
just wanted to push it until 4. We were originally thinking the start time of 3.
Okay, so you're thinking 4 to 7?
Yeah.
That changes no. I'm fine. Awesome. Do you guys have any comments, thoughts?
No, I heard him at the Duck Derby.
I did too, and they're
Been at Browns a
fantastic.
few times.
Sorry to see they're going away.
But please,
Yes.
please don't
Yeah.
forget to come back,
Well, we've
especially
got family here, so you can't get rid of
and
us that
perform.
Beautiful. Beautiful. My wife and I wrote down a couple songs. We were like, oh, we gotta learn these songs. They were great. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
In that case, I'm looking for a motion to approve the events.
Motion.
Second.
Ben, second Craig. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. July 1st, 4 to 7. I'm gonna put that in my calendar if I don't have it there already.
Marianne, can we?
Yes.
I know we have Hasty 3 and Youth Center further down under old business. Lori is here on behalf of Youth Center. I gave a copy of the letter that I had sent by email for the request. Would it be okay to move that into people to be heard? That discussion, and move it up a bit from the old business?
Yeah,
or-
let me, I'll put my updates off and we'll go through the people to be heard. Can I see that? Oh, no, I have, never mind. Let me put her in under Rich, I'll have Rich go first.
Okay.
And after them, also I wanna have Jim in there. Alright, in that case, we're gonna shift to people to be heard. Rich Elder from the county, Department of Health is here.
Thank you, Mayor. So just to introduce myself is Rich Elder. I'm the Environmental Health Director for Rensselaer County Health Department. With me, I brought Carrie Billig. See if I didn't want to butcher it in public. Carrie is with Albany County Cornell Cooperative Extension, and we subcontract with Carrie's team on an exciting program that we just got approval to move into the village of Hoosick Falls, so I wanted to be here to present to the board this program and make you aware that you will see us for this program. It is called Healthy Neighborhoods. Currently, we've been doing for the last 5 years this program in the city of Troy and in the city of Rensselaer. This year, during our grant renewal process, we applied to the state to add 3 villages, you being one of them. The state did approve that. It's based on housing stock, population, census data, things like that, to hit a target population. So what this program is about, it's a really great program from the health department, because every time you think about health department, you think about us as regulators, right? And where people are gonna come out and tell you what to do and fine you and all that other stuff. This program is not that. This program is 100% education based. It's voluntary. It is non-regulatory in nature. And that's kind of why we subcontract it. The people coming into the homes are not health department staff. They are educators through Cornell Cooperative Extension. And really the goal of this program is to provide education and assistance to tenants, homeowners, occupants on how to be healthy and safe within your home. Program focuses on fire safety, fall prevention, injury prevention, poisoning prevention, things like that. Asthma and self-management of asthma. So what this program does is they'll come in, they do a home assessment. Carrie brought an example of what they would bring with them, and this is really a small example. Big items that we give out routinely, smoke detectors. They come in, you don't have enough smoke detectors in your home or they're not working. They give them to you for free, and they also have a secondary program if needed that will actually install them in your home. So if you are, let's say, elderly or unable to install them, they have another program where they can actually come out and install smoke detectors in your home. We provide carbon monoxide detectors. We provide fire extinguishers. Teach you how to use it if you don't know, because having a fire extinguisher house doesn't do you any good if you don't really know how to use it. They will teach you cleaning and different ways to do cleaning, safe cleaning, promote a lot of the green and healthy cleaning, and less on some of the heavy chemicals that have inherent risks. So they go over how to use different household items to do cleaning. Pest management items, roach traps, mouse traps, bed bug interceptors, things like that. If that happens to be an item that you're struggling with in your home, they can provide not only education how to minimize and to manage those pests, but also items to help take care of those pests. With that, they work very closely with our other Healthy Homes programs for radon testing and education within a home. Asthma, like I said, they look at the asthma triggers in a home, provide that education, but also we have an asthma coordinator, so if there's an asthmatic in a home, not only will you receive these services, but we can make a referral and have an asthma coordinator who will come out and can work with you on self-management of your asthma, make sure that you have action plans in place, that you have the proper meds, that you're following up with your doctor. If there's problems, our asthma coordinator can really assist you with that. And then also our lead prevention program and preventing lead poisoning, primarily through lead paint being the primary factor in an old village like this with the housing stock. Lead paint is very common within the village. So that is the program that we have. It is completely voluntary. We'll take referrals from anybody. We do work, I should say there, so the caveat we have, we're not in enforcement, right? However, the one safety caveat that we have is if our educators go in and they identify what they believe to be a imminent life safety hazard, they will photograph it, they'll send it to me, and then I will forward it to the local code official because obviously that's something we want to make sure it's done so that we don't have a death. So that's really the only time we're going to have code involved in any of this process. Otherwise, take our advice for what it is, take our free supplies, because we give them to you whether you're going to use them or not, and hopefully you make healthy choices. That's really what this program's about. So you'll be seeing us. I'm going to leave some flyers and some things that you can post. The only thing I would ask the village is if you have events coming up, if you let us know, give us a heads up. We tend to try to do a lot of tabling at these events, so if we know you're having a community event, we'll try to have a staff person out to meet people and to talk about the program one-on-one with your residents.
That's great.
Does the board have any questions for me about the program?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
If people want to sign up for this, how do they do it?
So on the flyers, it has an email and a phone number. I've got two different flyers. One is a general that talks about all the different supplies we have. The other one actually has tear-offs on it. So if you put this somewhere, you know, they can just take a tear-off with them. For the record, the phone number to make referrals to is 765-3512. And again, that's directly to Albany County Cornell. Perfect. You have some, and I'll leave you also referral forms that you can fill out and fax in.
Yeah, and there's an email address too, so you can always
Okay.
email.
So I can leave this with the board.
Man, yeah, have you guys considered reaching out to the school and maybe getting information, not just for Central, but also St. Mary's Home with Kids? Is that something that you guys could do through this program?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, just keep in mind that the approval is for the village of Hoosick Falls, so we want to make sure we target that area.
right.
It doesn't mean we can't go outside of the village,
Okay.
but because of the way the funding works, we've got to show the state that our focus is on
Okay.
the village.
So the folks in the village, but people outside the village can still partake?
They may still be able to, if you have a resident who is in need of our services, we won't turn anybody down.
Okay. Okay.
I sent a list to the county, Susan Golden of the tourism. She has some events for the village,
Okay.
or I can forward you that list I sent to her.
Yeah, if you can, and what I'll do is I'll get it to our subcontractor and they can start putting those things on their calendars. If there's a person that they have to contact to register with, that would be helpful, and that way they can get registered
Okay, sure.
for any of those events.
I have some cards.
Carrie has cards, wonderful.
I can put them up there.
And I'll check in with some folks at the school and see if they would be wanting to be involved and get this out. That's
Absolutely.
like the weirdest point in the year, 'cause it's the end of the year
If
for
nothing
the
else,
school,
we put
but
flyers in the school, it's
Yep.
the end of the school year, probably not a lot of people in it,
a
but
couple main lobbies would be, or yeah, that would be great.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you find you hit a targeted age group with these programs, or?
no,
No.
anybody.
I know you wanna go to anybody, but does the program end up hitting a targeted age group?
No, because it's really, it's the environment, so anybody
it's
can
pretty
live in
well
an environment that needs help. Obviously, fall prevention, we look at that for older and younger people,
Right.
but everybody has the potential to fall.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Carrie?
We also have, baby safety, baby products too. So if people have young kids, we have cabinet locks, doorknob covers, outlet covers, I think that's it.
Do you do any work with car seats?
We do not.
It's usually law enforcement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is follow up with you guys and get a Facebook post out to the community,
Perfect.
and I want to highlight some of the most important things which I'm hearing are the detectors, baby items, free cleaning supplies. So if I can get your email.
I will get you a digital version of the one flyer because it lists all the different products that we offer. I can
Perfect.
get you digital.
And Brian will
Shouldn't be a
work to
problem.
get this out. And when does this program start? Is it
It's
now?
in place. We've actually just been holding off coming into the village till we had
Okay.
the opportunity to be in front of the board.
Thank you guys for thinking of us and the other villages in the county. That's awesome.
Perfect.
So great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Carrie, we can leave some cards for you.
All right. And can you still hang out for a few more minutes?
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you. All right. That's great. And if anyone's interested, obviously the cards are there, and we'll get the information out very soon. Brian, who did you say was here?
Lori from,
Hi, Lori.
just one name, Lori.
It come up recently discussing supporting the youth center and also our support with Hasty 3 in terms of financially. One of the questions we had was anyone here to speak on behalf of the youth center and what's going on, and I actually got to speak with Gabe Fisher, who's doing his Eagle Scout project there, and I'm very excited to see that come to fruition. He's doing some work in the kitchen.
He's redoing the entire kitchen,
Yeah.
actually.
And this is like roughing and wiring,
walls, floors, yeah.
sheetrock, everything. It's I cannot wait
It's a
to
whole
see
new
this done.
framework for a kitchen, and we're hoping that it'll be, what, the youth center right now is open November through April. Our goal right now is to get open in September, if we can get to that point.
Okay.
We staff with 2 people all the time. We're open a minimum of 6 days a week. We're open school breaks, we're open some nights. And our goal is for more staffing, but having the downstairs, it's going to prevent kids from having to leave to run and go get a soda or run and go get a Gatorade or a water. We're hoping to have a fairly open kitchen there for the kids. That will be open whenever we're open. There'll be staffing for it. The goal is really to have a place for kids to go.
Okay. You said it was open right now from when to when?
It's not open right now. It
Okay.
closed the end of April,
November to April is when it runs.
correct.
Okay.
Our goal is to be open in September right now.
Okay.
Do they have computer access?
There's no Wi-Fi currently in the building.
That would be something.
Oh yeah.
It would be
Yeah.
something to have. Funding right now is our main goal. We do have, the senior citizens have a badminton league, we have yoga for women. We're servicing many groups throughout the community. There's banquets that we had in there, the boys' basketball banquets were held there. We had over 100 kids join our basketball league, with another 50 kids sign on with additional memberships. Our
That's
last
great.
day there, we were only there for 3 hours, and we had 75 kids walk through the door.
Wow.
There's a huge need. We've been hearing that they want us to be open all summer, but it's finding funding to do it.
Also, just commend the group for taking a building that was not in great shape, that had been very neglected and deferred maintenance, and you've put so much into it, and although it's a limited window that you want to expand, it's already made a really big difference with our kids, so
And we're starting to see
appreciate it.
that some of the older kids that are coming, if we're not gonna be open, they wanna come and actually help us clean up the building, help us paint the walls, clean up the bathrooms. They'll do anything to be able to get in there.
That's great.
yeah.
That was
Our
a,
goal right now is to try and have a camp or 2, specifically at night. We know the town and the village offer camps already, so our goal would be to have something 6 to 9 or 7 to 9.
okay.
It's just trying to get it up and going on short notice right now.
How's building restoration going?
The building restoration, I mean, once we get the kitchen done, our goal is to be working on the outside.
Okay.
We're working on getting the soffits done. We hope to take up the marble sidewalk, which we don't wanna do, but we know that it needs to be done.
I get it. Yeah.
Our goal is long-term. Our goal is to stay open and be open as long as we can all year round.
That's great. And I know there's a generation of people who that history of the youth center is part of their Hoosick Falls experience. So it's great to see that coming back. Do you guys, trustees, have any other questions?
I know we had discussed previously, there was 3,000 allocated, and trustee Ryan didn't want to split in half. He wanted to make sure both groups were able to get 3,000.
Well, the ideal situation is we can support both.
Yes.
And I don't have an answer on if we can come up with more than 3,000 right now, just because Denise has been so crazy with everything going on, as have I.
Yeah.
But
Can we then start and split that 3,000 between the two tonight, and down the road later in the year find the other half of that, I think that would help both groups in the short term, and then for the long term find more money to allocate to them later in the year.
I mean, that's certainly an option. We could split it in any way we want and then revisit it.
Mm-hmm.
I think though we should first send a letter to HEYC3 and tell them we're cutting their funding in half as well, if you're gonna do that.
If we decide.
Yeah,
half
if we
is what
decide,
we're-
I mean, I mean it.
And that's another issue is if right now with the 3,000, if we give it to them, we're taking it from someone else, and that's not our intention.
But also to point out, just to be, they also have a loan from the HC3 is a loan from the village that was
paying back.
They are,
Yeah.
but I know the village did reduce the terms and double the time before we had started. So the youth center doesn't have a loan or money available because they are paying a reduced amount back. Nor that I think you want a loan, but I think we already are doing a big help there. I'd like to help these guys get going again too.
I totally agree with giving money to the youth center,
Yeah.
$3,000, but I don't think you should take away from one group and give it to another. We should look for that money in our budget for equally $3,000.
But it says sitting on at least today, split it, and then
Well,
later
then
in the
I don't think today we should do that. I think we should tell HAYC3 that you're gonna be cut, because
Well, no, Kevin, you didn't hear what I said. We give half of the, we split it today, and later in the year we find another 3 that we split. They get a payment now, and then they get a payment again. It's still the same amount of money, it's just in 2 different disbursements.
So
that's fine, as long as they know it's
Yeah,
coming.
that's what I'm saying, as long as but I know that Youth Center has been working without much municipal support on this project for a long time, and I want us to try to help them.
So
I totally agree. My daughter did basketball this year and she had a great time. But I just wanna make sure that they know, HAYC3 knows it's coming, what's happening with the money, rather than, oh, here's a check, it's $1,500, where's the
Right.
rest?
Well,
Yep, that's true, a good point.
Here's an idea then. What if we decide to commit right now 2,000 to HC3 and 1,000 to the youth center, because that's what we have. And I'll get in touch with Ailish tomorrow and say, this is what we're thinking. We want to support both. We only had this much budget. We're going to look into the budget to see where we can find more money, so that if we find more money, we can get it to both them and the youth center. And that way we're making an initial commitment, but we're at the same time, we're not completely taking HC3 out half of what they expected this year, which is again, not our ideal situation.
Well, we haven't committed to give them the 3 anyhow. They requested it just like this has, so I
Yeah.
guess it's like when I buy a lottery ticket, I expect to win $1 million. I shouldn't be sad the next day when I don't wake up and have $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we have habitually given, so to change it without any heads up of it coming, it would be, I get your point though, it's not a definite thing we give all the time, but it is something that has been regular, and from a budgeting standpoint, I would assume they'd be expecting that to come in, regardless of if they checked with us prior or afterwards, but.
I know we were hoping not have to pay the $15,000 from the county for 911.
We're still working on that.
We're still working on that,
Yep.
so possibly there'll be some funds open from that if
Yep.
that comes to fruition.
So what do we wanna make a decision right now about first the 3,000 now, so that we can tell HC3, or do we wanna wait and come up with a plan?
I'd like to at least, I'd rather give notice to both groups that we're giving them some money now,
Okay.
and continue to try to wait and find money and give them an equal amount.
What do you guys think?
How long is it gonna take to find out whether or not there's extra money in the budget to do that?
Well, Denise right now is just finishing up the fiscal year reports from the previous year. We just got past the county, the county tax bills, the water bills. So I would assume that by the July meeting, we could have more details on how we would do this.
The only thing I'm saying is that maybe it's, and I don't know, Lori, if you had to wait a month for funding, but it's possible that you could get the 3,000 then, would you wait the month, or would you rather have money up front now and then see what happens in a month?
I mean, waiting a month isn't, we're currently not open, it's just,
Okay.
we're looking to staff for when we can open for the
Right.
next step.
Okay, so if we table this until the July meeting, try to find the money, and then make the decision then, we're not putting a carrot out in front of both and saying, here, we're gonna give you a little now, and if we find it, then we'll give you a little more. I'd rather see us commit 3,000 to both, if we
Okay.
can do that, and wait a month, than to give a portion of one and
Yeah.
then say maybe we can. I'm not saying that we should give it to Hasty 3 today, and I'm not saying that we should give it to them today. I'm just saying that we should wait a month, find out if we've got $3,000 more, and then give it to both, and they can both be happy at the same time. That's my thought, so whatever you decide is fine.
Kevin, Craig?
That seems reasonable to me, actually.
So you wanna wait a month?
If we can, if we can figure out the actual, what the answer's gonna be in a month, why
Right.
do something right now?
Okay.
And so I guess I kind of agree with Ben on that.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah, I just would like to make sure we do help out.
Okay.
And
I
I certainly
think
would have,
that's
I
without
certainly
question,
would
I think
have
we're
I
gonna
don't
do
think
that.
preference
think
one
that's
over
a-
the other anyhow, but that's another,
Okay.
when we're using taxpayer money.
So we'll
Alright.
wait till next month.
Noted, so we'll table it for next month, but with the understanding that we're gonna look into this and make sure we can do what we can.
And if you have a chance to stop over and take a walk through, Gabe hopes to be done in a month, so.
When's he working next? I was hoping to make it this weekend, I couldn't.
This weekend, he should be back.
This
again.
weekend again?
Yeah.
Great, alright, thank
Can we
you.
at least agree that there will be money for both? Is that something we can agree on?
Yes,
Alright.
yes.
Okay.
I think that's what we're all saying, is that,
Okay.
alright, great. Alright, thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
I'm gonna jump back to, the mayor updates. I have 3 listed here, they're fairly brief, and I actually have a 4th one.
Did you see if there was anyone
that I
else
wanna
that's
add.
able to be heard?
The first thing is I want to just briefly mention that I got to go down to Washington DC all of a sudden to attend the PFAS National Leadership Summit. It was a surreal experience, no question, especially meeting in Administrator Pruitt's office with him. I did want to thank the board for the support in this, because you guys were very much for having us being one of only 2 communities represented out of all the communities who've had to deal with any PFAS contamination. I want to thank Peter Lopez. He is the Region 2 Administrator of EPA. He's the person who is in the seat that Judith Enck used to have. They gave up a seat from their staff going there so that they could make a spot for me, and they were very welcoming, very cordial, and very professional. And I also got to meet up with Brad Hutton from DOH, Martin Brand from DEC, a gentleman who represents the counties of the state of New York. We got to chat a bit, and that was really nice. And I also got to finally meet up with an activist, Andrea Amico. She's out of New Hampshire, and she has done incredible work in Pease, New Hampshire, which is a site similar to Newburgh that's been contaminated by former military base. I forget exactly which one it was. So it was it's good to make those connections. And I was glad to represent the community. Our attorney, Dave Engel, had wished to also share some insights on the conference, so at this point I want to turn over to Mr. Engel and grab a lifesaver.
Okay. Just sort of as I know, of course, people were aware of the conference that was held in Washington, and I think everybody should know that one of the reasons that the conference was held in the first place, such as it was because of what had happened here at Hoosick Falls, and that perhaps more so than any other incident or series of events in the country, it has been those events here in Hoosick Falls that really triggered EPA's interest in all of this. And it was initially through EPA Region 2 that this became a top priority issue for EPA. Now that's all the good news. Now, kind of the flip side of this as to what happened in Washington, and I'm sure many of you saw the news accounts of this, was that it was, as the mayor said, I think, surreal. It was surreal for those of us who have been involved in this issue for a while to observe it from the outside, as we were able to do on a limited basis. It had been advertised that this was going to be available nationwide on streaming video, and indeed it was for the first 75 minutes in a 2-day event. And in the first 75 minutes we were treated to a self-congratulatory speech by Administrator Pruitt, followed by, I think, by one other person from EPA, and the administrator of the Ohio EPA, which was kind of curious, because Ohio was one of the first states where these problems came to light in conjunction with the situation across the river in West Virginia, and yet Ohio is yet, as a state, to take any action on this in terms of establishing PFOA or related substances as a hazardous substance, or doing anything in terms of their own Superfund program. and the Ohio EPA individual who was ostensibly put up to speak on behalf of the states in this general session at the beginning was, I would say, it would be fair to say he was less than impressive. And then they finished that initial part of the program by allowing a spokeswoman from the American Chemical Council, which is a lobbying group for the chemical industry, to give kind of about a 15 to 20 minute self-serving talk as to just how great these chemicals were and how the industry was so sensitive to everyone's needs. So all of that was more than a little bit disappointing. And I think ultimately what was even more disappointing than all of that was the fact of who was not in the room. And I think you should appreciate just how unique it was that the mayor of Hoosick Falls was in the room, because those people who had the greatest interest were largely barred from the room.
Yep.
And as you probably read, EPA not only didn't want the press in the room, they actually ousted members of the press. And that caused quite a stir and made the national news. And I think probably the most disturbing aspect of a program that was ostensibly being held for the purpose of trying to figure out what should be done about PFOA on the national level was the fact that there was no community of scientists or researchers there. So a conference that was widely advertised and widely reported probably could have drawn in members of the C8 science panel, could have drawn in other people who were doing important research around the country and frankly from around the world, and had them make presentations as to the health effects. They were notably absent. So it was a press event, it was a public relations event. We can all speculate as to sort of the political motivations that may have led to that. But in the end, I think the important takeaway from this is that in the end, here in Hoosick Falls, communities have to engage in self-help, because I don't think we're going to be finding, some sort of magical formula coming down from Washington, D.C. And I think probably the most important formulas that Administrator Pruitt is interested in are those that have to do with skincare products, since that's what he seems to be using his staff to try to locate for him, according to other press reports. So there's my little snide comments at the end.
I enjoyed it. Thank
Otherwise,
you.
I think I behaved myself.
Thank you. Yeah, it was surreal, but I was very glad to be there and represent us, a lot of other communities. And just to work off of that a little bit, one of the things that Brad Hutton from DOH said publicly there was that the state is not waiting on EPA. They are going to move forward and set their limits for PFOA, PFOS, and 1,4-dioxane, I think is the one they're working on right now. And I actually had a conference call with them around about 2 hours ago and brought this up, and they're still trying to get the next meeting set. But they are still ready to move on it, and as soon as that meeting is set, I'll be one of the first calls, so I'll get that out to people so people know it. So, looking for that. Alright, I just wanted to review briefly the successful GAC changeout we had from Vessel 1. It went pretty much as planned. We had people from the county. Rich Elder was here, and I asked Rich to stay, so if you want to voice in on anything else, feel free. DEC, DOH members were there for just about all of it. Rob Switer and Tim Vickerson were there a ton, I know that. We also had trustees there on rotation for most of the entire day. Brian was there, Craig was there, and Vanessa was there.
And Kevin was down as well.
Yep, I stopped by for a bit. I know Jim and Josh had their hands full and then some. And thank you guys for all the work that entailed and the crazy season it was for you guys. Everything went pretty much as planned. There were some changes and unexpected delays, but sequentially everything happened exactly as they thought. Physical operation was fantastic. The Calgon guys were really solid. I heard that from a bunch of different people. And the system has been running exactly as it has been intended to.
America, just to note too that they took not just samples for the change out, but also for PFCs while we were running on the one vessel, just to make sure there was nothing on the one, and those were all good.
Yeah, they did samples right before, they did samples on just the one, that did slews of samples. And they're continuing to do samples on a weekly basis as well. They like the fact that they can learn a lot about how this progresses on a weekly basis as opposed to bi-weekly or once a month, so that's continuing. And at this point we're just going to work to fine-tune the procedures for next time so they're memorialized and we know exactly what's going to happen from start to finish and who does what. Rich, have anything else to add?
No, I think you covered it there.
Alright, great, and thank you for your involvement as well. Any questions on that? Alright. I have two more things I wanna mention. The first one is a quick update on the Woodsbrook. Again, we have two different grants going on. One is the CDBG grant, that we're still working on, that will handle the stuff up outside the village. That's the one that we're sharing with the town, and we're still trying to get the ball rolling on that, as grants work. But the one that we've had the most focus on, we've put the most work on in, is the buyout program, and I know, you've been involved in that. We are finally getting over the last hurdle with getting things prepared. It has to do with setting up things with the state in terms of budget, procedures, scope of work, legal agreements, environmental. There's so many things that I've learned about jumping through all these hoops, but we are finally at the end of the preparation phase. It's been an important phase, but it definitely took too long, but it is what it is, and that's how these things work. Additionally, with graduation about a week and a half away, my schedule will be freeing up quite a bit, so I'm hoping to be able to be in contact with owners in the next week to sit down with them and walk them through everything, all the procedures, everything that would happen, how it would work, schedule, and take all their questions. It's been a great deal of administration dealing with $1 million grant that's funded by the state, lots of requirements and lots of details, but I want to thank the residents who are waiting for their infinite patience. I wish that this had moved faster, but we're finally getting to the point where we're actually going to move on it. So, a long time coming. But hopefully we'll have some more information soon. So I'm hoping that even late this week or early next week, when we get our final things back from the state, we can call you and set up those meetings.
Do you have like a time frame, like when you think that?
My goal has been always to try
July.
to get the first closing by the first anniversary. But at the same time, the time frame is as soon as we're ready to move, we move as fast as we can if that's what people want. But we don't want to rush us, and in a sense, we're going to be sensitive to whatever your desire is and your speed for moving. If it's as fast as possible, or if you want to wait, that's fine. And there's a lot of steps that have to happen, but we have the people lined up for that when those time comes to get those things in motion. Do you have any other questions on anything?
Are we in the buyout program?
Very much so, yes.
So does the village have the money that if they said yes on a price, you could write the check tomorrow?
The money comes through the state.
Not quite tomorrow.
Not quite tomorrow.
The day after will be fine.
But the ideal situation is yes, once we come to the table and come and agree on a price, we get moving immediately. I mean, we're still working with the state, so it's always a roll of dice.
But it's not like a 90-day.
Shouldn't be. Like
It
that.
shouldn't be. There will be a process. We're still waiting for the overall grant agreement from the state. We'll review that and get that executed. Then the mayor will sit down with property owners. Once there's a contract and a closing, there's a few steps, including documents need to be sent to the state to review and get approved, and then they'll release the money for that closing on a closing by closing basis.
What's we're paying taxes?
Is there an appraisal process during this that
I'm still
happens?
paying
There is.
taxes on this house. And
We were gonna look into that. We have to contact the county and find out about that. She's been out of the house.
Right.
She's still paying taxes on the house.
I don't know if there's something we can do about that, though. I mean, the house gets foreclosed, people still pay tax until the bank takes it, the county does.
Yeah, but the
They're
other
responsible.
piece of the pie is that there's 3 properties back there that do not any longer have their properties.
But if she's
There's no property that people are paying taxes on in the back that,
Because it got dug out
because they
and
do not
piled up
have
and,
that
And I
land
have
any longer.
land.
yes.
I mean, I pay taxes on land that I don't have anymore.
Do we have any options on adjusting the taxes for these situations?
She should be reimbursed for the town taxes she paid, like if you were buying a house.
I mean, if you go
Do
in
a
the
per
back
deal.
and look at it,
We'll have to look into that.
Part of the closing, you're correct, will be when the taxes were paid. We can look at if there's any ability while you own the property to address those taxes, but as soon as the closing occurs, the balance of that tax period does get reimbursed to you. There'll be an adjustment.
And I don't have the water or sewer. I don't pay water or sewer, but I'm paying on the bond, which is $100
The
some
pipe's
dollars
connected, that's the law.
service goes into the house.
Yeah,
Service
I
of the
don't think
house.
we have, I don't know if we have
Until
any
it's
way to.
demolished or sold, that's the property owner's responsibility.
I'm paying on the bond for the water
Right.
and the sewer.
I don't know what legal wiggle room we have with that. I don't know if we have any legal wiggle room with that,
I don't believe you do on.
because the
on-
policy is specific to if something's piped in and out.
That's correct.
I think once the service is disconnected from the road, that's when they can stop
From the
paying.
main, right?
Well,
Yeah,
you
from
would
the
have
main.
probably disconnected your water long ago if you knew that, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's just, I don't
Has
think
to be
it's a turn off,
from
it's
the
a
main.
physical disconnection.
Yeah, from the main.
Which is part of what we've planned to do for the whole scenario of obtaining houses and moving forward with that.
Well, what we're talking about too is a property, I understand what he just said, but if, have any of you been down there in the past 6 months? Well, if you look, there's no property in the back.
Yeah.
There's, you know, we've got this
There's a
5 foot,
ravine.
6 foot mountain of riverbed,
Yeah.
and there's no property back there, you know, the 3 properties that are along that way. And even before this, I mean, Nicky Matt lost half the property because of the sinkholes. So there's no property that people have in the back that is considered usable, so to speak. You can't mow, you can't use anything back there, you got a 6 foot mountain, you probably could stick something on it, I guess, but we got beautiful flocks that we never had before that came down with the riverbed and seated themselves, that was a good thing, but.
That's where they.
What are you going to do if we sell our property? What is gonna happen there?
Depending on the properties that we obtain, our goal is to come up with a permanent fix for the situation. So even if we get huge storms like we have, it doesn't wreck the area. Now, with the funds that come in from the state, there are certain things we can and can't do. We can't just put up a building. We can't do that. There's very specific limits on that because of the way the funding works. We also received additional funding to do a study on what we can do once we have all the properties and have various buildings demolished. We have a couple scenarios as a way to fix it. It all depends on which properties we obtain, and because this is a voluntary buyout, people can simply say, no, I'm not going to do that, and we will just adjust our plans accordingly. But our end goal is to get that back to a safe situation, where even if we take on more water and a lot of rain, it's not an issue. And to make this spot, which is right in the center of our village, to make it a really beautiful spot instead of a liability that it has been historically. So that's our goal, and whether that comes in the form of a concrete culvert or a box culvert or a pond or a retention pond or a park, those are all on the table, because our goal is to get this fixed and make it look amazing.
Oh, we've been waiting for 25 years to 30 years with
Yeah.
it coming.
Yeah.
And you've been saying every year you aren't gonna be here to see it done, and you are.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I wish we were already sitting down and discussing details, but we're very, very close. I'm
It will
hoping.
break my heart to see my house go.
Yes.
Well,
My-
we'll
this
let
is
you
the
keep
house
it.
is my home. Why should I
I said,
keep
I
it?
said you don't want to keep it though.
I've been told to fix what I need. It's gonna cost me $72,000. Would you
Yeah.
put $72,000 in your home in '93?
No, but I would say thank you to the mayor for a lot of the hard work he's
No,
put
no,
in for
it's-
making this actually happen after 25, 30 years.
Question, because
I'm
I've had it up to here.
well. Hopefully this will
I've
be
had it.
done, and soon, and that's what we're working on.
So a good time frame to shoot for is by September 1, when school taxes come out, so that people wouldn't have to pay school taxes on property that may eventually be taken.
I think if things move quickly and we agree pretty quickly, I don't see why not.
Yeah, just so everyone's aware, and part to address your question, Kevin, is that there are a few things that need to be done on each property, and that includes an appraisal, it includes a survey, it includes what we've just learned is an initial, environmental site assessment.
Possibly, we're still waiting to
We're still
hear back.
reviewing that with.
Yep.
We have to have title work completed.
But this is all stuff that we've budgeted for,
We've
that will come out of
gone through and
this.
budgeted that program, so there's certain things that we then can sit down based on that information and review purchase price for each. And then,
Mhm.
once a contract's entered into, we can get all of that work finalized, all the title updated, title reviewed by the state, closing documents reviewed by the state, then proceeds released, and we can sit down and close.
What do you think the turnaround time is for the state reviewing that and getting back?
How much have they budgeted for this?
We have the $1 million, and we've come up with a tentative budget of how much will go to administrative costs, how much will go to the surveys, to the appraisals, and then we have basically the rest of the money, and we will get as many properties as we can with the rest of the money. But
Well, the property owners are not gonna get very much.
we don't know that, and that's why we want to sit down and we have our priorities, and you know there were some buildings that were not inhabited at the time.
Well, mine was.
Yes, it
I
definitely
mean,
was.
right now,
Right now it's not. Yeah.
So does that also figure in the demolition cost in that?
Yeah.
That was part of the budgeting process for the grant.
Yeah, but again, and one of the things we've done is we've with some other grant money, we're gonna be purchasing the excavator that we've been, I think, renting for use, a very large excavator that will help us with a lot of the demo work, so that we can do a lot, so we don't have to contract it out. But again, demo work requires, as I've learned, was it air monitoring?
Well,
for
it's part of the asbestos survey and abatement, so there'll need to be air monitoring during the demolition, and it's highly regulated by the Department of Labor, so that would need to be contracted out, even if the village could do some demolition
But we've
work.
done a lot of initial work, so when we can sit down, we can lay this all out, and hopefully it's many fewer hoops that you have to jump through, because we've been on this.
so if you take the house, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and you take it away, you said that you're gonna do all this, but we're paying for it.
What do you mean?
We'll be paying for it of our home, if you're taking that out of it, the money,
Not your money, but the grant money.
the grant money,
Right.
yes. So we'll still be, it will be our loss.
Yes.
Because it's less money that's being divided among the homeowners.
It's deducted, that, all those costs are being deducted from the value of the properties. If the value of the properties exceed $1 million, and the cost to do everything you've said about doing is 400,000, 600,000, they're gonna get 60% of what the value of the
I
property
understand what
is.
you're saying. You're worried that some of the administrative costs are gonna limit the amount of houses that we can get in the project. We understand that. We kind of made our idea of if we could get them all, how would it work? But we also have a priority list, and out of the, I forget the number, 13 or 14 buildings, we haven't heard back from all the owners yet. So that to me says some people are interested and some people aren't.
Now, when you do this demolition or whatever, there may be some properties that have asbestos and all that in it.
Mhm.
So that's another ball of wax, so to speak, financially. So.
It has to do with air monitoring, and you can probably explain this a little
But
bit
I mean,
better than I can.
my question is, so that's a pretty expensive process if you get into all that asbestos abatement.
It
So
will
that's
add a
gonna
cost.
not-
This is not gonna be an abatement project where a contractor comes in and removes it. It's, the Department of Labor regulates demolition of structures that may have asbestos containing materials a certain way. And as the mayor said, it really is predominantly through air monitoring while the demolition occurs and how you handle the
So would that be
resulting
more
waste.
financial?
There is a
financial?
cost associated with the air monitoring and lab costs, yes, there is.
But again,
That's something we can't avoid.
two things is we've already talked to various people. When we get to the point where we're doing the demo, we won't be going to, we'll be getting someone to come in and do demo on 6 buildings or 7 buildings, or do appraisals and survey work on 6 or 7. So hopefully that will lower the cost. And at the end of the day, if 5 buildings decide not to do it, that's 5 buildings that aren't gonna be, appraised, surveyed, title work, administrative costs, all that stuff.
So that's more money back into
Yep.
the pot.
Yep.
So the appraisals, we just had our homes appraised.
Oh, via the new assessments? We're not,
Yeah,
we're not
so-
using that, we're not even going near that. I've been in touch with a certified appraiser, who's actually local, and she is gonna be the one who comes in and does these. And in the case of a commercial or a larger apartment, we have someone else in line to do that. But we didn't wanna confuse any of that, cause that's
Yeah,
just,
because that was.
Yeah.
one of my-
Yep.
So what do? Just go on your property and,
one of the things we've worked out is agreements to make sure that we have the agreement to go on and we get in contact or they get in contact with you just to make sure that you know this is the time period where they're gonna come and do that. Almost there. Sorry, thank you for being patient. I know that the situation stinks, but we're almost there. Finally, almost over the hump.
You know, like, one last thing, my neighbor,
Yeah.
he's had an apartment that he hasn't rented out this whole time because of this whole situation. He's been waiting to, figuring it was gonna be done in the fall, it was gonna be done in the spring, and, you know, I mean, he's taken a financial hit not renting out his apartment because of, yes, you have.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a perfect situation. I wish it had moved faster, and I understand that.
I'm gonna stand on the street corner, selling apples and pencils. Will you buy some from me?
Call me up, and I'll be there.
I'll
I'll be
buy
there.
some money.
All right. Thank you, and again, I hope late this week, early next week, I'm gonna be in touch with you guys. And if not, email me, call me, text me.
You'll probably get in touch with my niece and she'll probably.
I've been in touch with her quite often. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, she did.
She's
I know
great.
where he
She's
lives.
great.
I drive by his house every day when I go to my daughter's.
Don't look at the yard. I haven't mowed it in too
You
long.
can tell she's a school teacher, or was a school teacher.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right. And my final update, really briefly, was I was able to attend the opioid addiction event that the school put on with the county over at the Armory. Brian, you were there. School officials were there. County officials were there.
District attorney, state officials,
district
federal,
attorney, yep.
actually federal officials too.
It was an eye-opening experience to go through. The movie that they watched, you can actually download for free and watch. It's called Chasing the Dragon. Specific to opioid addiction. The thing that I came away from it was hearing the county sheriff, the county DA, the police chief all say that they have been through cocaine and crack scenarios and LSD, and this is nothing like it. It's so much worse. It hasn't reached the peak yet, and law enforcement and government are not enough to handle it. To hear that from all those people, it was mind-blowing. And it came down to communities handling this, understanding what's going on, getting help for people. There was a panel there that had a whole bunch of different people. There were some people from Bennington who were involved in treatment centers there. There were representation from the hospital over there. It was just a very fascinating, eye-opening, frightening, but I think important couple hours. I just want to mention that as a thing, and it's still on the way. So, all right. Before we get to the people to be heard, I do want to mention Brian has some things he wants to talk about regarding our Mr. Herbert water treatment operator.
Yeah. So, as you may or may not know, and probably know, Jim's real name's Francis, but I'll continue with Jim. I didn't know that till I got this, and I'm like, what? Who's this guy?
I've known that the whole time.
Pass these down. Jim was locally or recently recognized twice, actually, for his work with our water plant in the village. And in light of the PFOA crisis that we went through, I think one of the unsung heroes that didn't get mentioned very often was Jim. And Jim not only was working countless number of hours and practically living at the plant at times to make sure that our water supply was safe, was clean, that we did upgrades. He had help from his staff, these guys too, but a strong leader brought all these guys together and kept things coordinated. And then you had contractors on site who, you know, things went wrong at times, and you kept our water supply full. You kept our, you know, if we had a fire, we were ready to go, everything. But there was so much work. So for recognition on that, you should have earned this 5 times over, in my opinion. And also just to note too, besides doing all the work on it, Jim, when you're down the plant with him, that's your baby. You know, if you're ever down the plant and during the GAC change out, the filter change out, the pride that Jim has in working for this village, in maintaining our water supply, in everything that he does, and if he's not in there, and he might be out mowing and doing other duties as assigned. We thank you very much, and I want to start actually with the very big one, that's the really pretty one. The New York State Rural Water Association Water Operating Specialist of the Year So I think Jim, well earned, and we're very proud of you. And also from Rensselaer County, you were recognized by by the county executive, Steve McLaughlin, for also the same honor, right? Correct yeah. I'd just like to say water boy of the year. Congratulations. You want a picture of the board?
I want a picture, yeah, absolutely.
Jim, thank you for all you do, and thank you to your staff.
Rich, you want to join us in the picture?
Yeah, Neil too.
Neil?
Rich, no way.
Careful, you could be very injured on that.
You want to hold this as well?
Want me to get out of here?
Oh, you're fine, we'll hide you. Well, no one will ever know.
Here, we got Engel back here, right?
Yeah.
I feel really short all of a sudden.
Sorry about that.
Do you want to come up and take one? Come on up,
Come
please.
up.
Yep.
I think I was close enough.
Let me get out of your way though.
Sorry. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
One more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Congratulations again, Jim.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Thank you, guys.
Excuse me. All right, people to be heard section. I want to just get an idea of how many people want to be heard. As a reminder, name, address, and it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh my goodness! All right, we'll start with let's do a 4-minute limit then. You have to go first.
Thank you. I have three things. Number one, I would
Oh,
like to.
name and address. Sorry for the record.
Helen Binkowski, 107 Main Street, St. Paul, New York.
Thank you.
I'd invite all the board members, any of the board members to go down and just look at the backyards we were discussing and the lack of property that we have now, and just to actually visualize it and see. You can go right on my property, right through the back driveway, don't hesitate, you're all welcome to come. The second thing is they were talking about the youth center in Hayseed 3. Now, is it the village or the town that gives Hayseed 3, is it money for fuel?
Mm-hmm. The town.
The town. Okay, do they do that to the youth center too, do you know? No. Okay. And the third thing is it came to my attention tonight when I was bringing Winnie down, that there is no handicap parking I had to get her out of the car with her walker to come here to go up the ramp. So.
Actually, there's a spot right here on the side.
Yeah, there's 2 in the back and 1 out front, I believe, right?
Well, for her to walk across the street with a walker, and if she was by herself in her own car to get in here, then to come down and go up this ramp and in, that's really not as accessible.
I think there's one right
There,
here.
right here.
No, I didn't see one there.
Let's
When
wait
I pulled up here and let her out and got her up on the sidewalk so she could come in, but it's just
We'd have to have it
something
across
for-
the street by Rite Aid, but that'd be just as far from the front.
Well, the
Unless
thing-
we
well,
put a handicap spot right out
I think,
front.
isn't there one out
But,
front?
but the thing is the point I'm trying to make is, for a handicapped person with a walker, or whatever they have, to walk across the street in traffic is not a safe situation.
Nope. Agreed.
And then if they wanted to come in here to pay their water bill, or whatever they wanna pay, to get up this ramp, you've gotta be close to here to park. So, that's just my question, you know,
It's a
just
great
to.
question.
Yeah, it's right
They're
up
right there, I mean, they're.
I didn't see it when, I pulled up
Yeah,
here
they're in the
so
back.
she could get to the ramp and get in.
Okay.
So I'll
Probably
look
needs
out
better
there, but I
signage
didn't
out
see
there.
one.
Yeah,
I didn't see one.
I'm getting old and decrepit.
Well, yeah, we'll look into that. And
It's just because if they need the ramp because of a walker, I mean, when she ever came, she came up the steps and stuff, but,
Yeah.
you know, for other people, I'm just.
even the possibility
asking
of,
that
of
Get out
one
there.
out there,
Oh, you mean
at the end of the normal parking, we could put one handicap spot there as a possibility.
There's one there that says no parking, that's in front of the municipal building,
Yeah, that one could become a handicap spot.
or something, but just to get out.
We'll look
and
into
get
that.
the
Thank you
ramp.
for bringing that up.
That's all I have to say, thank you very
And,
much.
yeah,
Thank you for listening to us for so many years.
anytime.
He hasn't listened to us that long.
Yeah, that's right, I'm
You
still
know,
new kid on the
you'll
block.
miss us. You'll miss me.
Absolutely. All right, who wanted to speak next?
Okay, Cheryl Downing, 111 Railroad Avenue here in the village of Hoosick Falls. I'm just here before the board to get an update on what's going on with the property along the Waterworks Road that runs parallel to Railroad Avenue in my backyard. It was all cleared out so that it's now open there, and
Yes, This is next to where the new highway garage is going. We have been clearing that with the idea of putting a dog park there. It's in the preliminary phases. We've gotten the clearing work done. We still have a lot of it to go, and I wish Vanessa were here to give more details on this because she's been working on it. But there's a lot of fencing and other probably plants going back in that will go in, but
It's gonna be a big concern. I know that Terry McGuire couldn't be here because of work, but her property is there, our property. I spoke with Miss Small, who has the property next to Mr. Bushner, and we are all absolutely against that. As you know, I have a daycare, and I already have enough liability, and to put a dog park in my backyard, I think that should be located away from residential properties, as I do believe the rest of the residents there would agree. And I don't think that that is a safe place to have a dog park when you have residences all along that property. And as I said, I have a daycare, so I have a lot of regulations that I'm required to maintain for the state. I already have to have liability for that, and having a dog park in my backyard where dogs can get loose is a big concern for me. And I also have concerns that it's gonna be regulated, because I can tell you right now that our parking on our street is not regulated or enforced. There's parking on Cary Avenue that is not enforced. So don't tell me that there's gonna be regulations and they're gonna be followed, because nothing gets enforced in the village. So I'm here to let the board know that I would be very upset, and I will be a strong opponent against any dog park going behind my property.
Alright, thank you.
I mean, think about how you'd like it in your backyard.
I actually don't mind in my backyard,
And that's you, Brian, you know, and you're one of
And
maybe five
as-
people on our street.
And also just because usually you come in to these meetings with, usually it's the daycare, but you have a railroad track 50 feet from your daycare.
Exactly.
So the fact is, was that a good spot for the daycare to begin with? I'd be more worried about the trains than the dogs.
And I already have that issue of the train in the front that we have the liability for.
But dogs don't just jump fences and escape dog parks. Have you ever been to one?
I actually have.
That's
And
mythology, and it's just silly to try to
I
fight.
have a dog. I'm not against
To
dogs.
fight building a park, a
I'm
dog park
against
for people to
putting a dog
use.
park in a residential area behind my property.
But it's the village property at that point, and I think it's community
It's
and.
village property that goes up against my backyard, and we already had to deal with the noise from the highway garage. We already had to deal with the
But you live by the
noise
railroad,
of the
there's
Little
noise
League.
from that.
Well, exactly,
And the
so
noise
why
from
should
the
we
Little
have
League.
one more
Understood, but
thing?
I think your point is taken, and when we are getting into the fine details, especially when we're talking fencing, we'll be in touch to make sure that that is what it needs to be. All right.
One more reason why we should put a property for sale.
Please.
All right. Who would like to speak
fair,
next?
Brian.
Yes.
My name is Wesley Whedon, 61 Elm Street, and my concern is, last Friday, Highway Department people put a no parking sign in front of my house, 2-hour limited parking in front of my residence, a business sign. I've never heard of that in my entire life.
We actually have this on the agenda to discuss tonight. And which side of the road are you on? South side or north side?
North side.
Are you the building next door?
I'm next door to Terry McGuire's,
Okay.
and I own the building on the corner also. And I have residents in both of them, and I'm zoned residential, so how can you put a business sign in front of my residence?
Do you have parking in the residence?
I have on-street parking, and I have some off-street parking, but that's irrelevant, because the person across the street, who had a sign put up in front of their house, does not have off-street parking. Seal Granby does not have off-street parking, and she's been there, and her father's been there for 70, 80 years, whatever. And she's supposed to get out every 2 hours and move that vehicle?
Is this the building? That's Artistic Heritage
It
Designs?
doesn't make any sense to put a restricted business parking sign in front of a residence. I've never heard of that in my entire life.
So it's directly in front of your building?
It was, but it got taken down in less than an hour. Cause I went and saw Neil, I came down to the office here, as soon as I left, they put one sign up in front of Terry's, and I said, don't you dare put that sign up in front of my house. And I went down to Thorpe's to get my prescription. My sister, who lives in next door, called up and said they're putting a sign right in front of your house. So I came right down here, and then somebody else called and said, Neil is over here, CO called, and CO was talking to him, and I walked over, I said, what are you doing? You just can't arbitrarily put no business parking, no parking or restricted parking sign in front of somebody's house. Or else you could do it to everybody in this village. Oh, I want, whatever. You just can't do that.
How many apartments do you have in each building?
There's one in the corner and two in the other one.
You have off-street park if you're 1.5 spots off-street?
Yes.
I guess the point of our law was to put those signs
The whole
in front
point
of
of the law
Terry's
was
place.
It was supposed to be only in front of Terry's place, from her end of her property to the railroad track.
To our parking.
And so, but they put
Certain
one
days.
sign in, right in front of my house, and they put
But
one
also,
sign
you
across the
still,
street.
if you have apartments, you have to have 1.5 parking spots per.
Well, I have two people live upstairs together, and they each have a vehicle. And then I have one person living downstairs.
So in the two buildings, or no, that's in one building?
That's in one building.
And the other building?
I live there.
Okay.
Oh, what are you gonna do to Seal? You're gonna make her,
No, you have a business, I mean, it's commercial. If you have apartments, you're commercial.
two is not considered commercial, I don't believe.
It's still a business, you're a
I know,
landlord,
it's-
you're a landlord.
Over two, I believe is.
The whole point is off-street parking, 1.5 per apartment.
When did that
Actually,
law go into
zoning,
effect?
it's
Been
zoning,
forever.
commercial, industrial.
Forever.
On the zoning map, until First Street is zoned as commercial industrial. So,
He's on Elm.
it's Elm and First on the corner.
Elm and First, yeah.
Yeah, that's zoned as commercial industrial.
They told me they changed it to residential.
It's residential on the other side of First Street, so the border for that zone, which, that's mixed use, because it includes, a mixture of commercial and industrial, but there are some residential within that zone too.
That was commercial at one time.
Yeah, now it's mixture of the two.
So anyway, that's on the agenda to talk about.
Yeah, and as Kevin mentioned, the point of the law was to provide spots for her.
That's
Patron
what
park.
Terry and I talked about. Terry and I had talked about this, and from the end of your property, and we marked it off, said there, from here, up there, I will keep my people out of your parking spots. And it's been working pretty good the last couple of months, it's been working pretty good. Once I told them, they can't park there anymore, or else you're gonna have signs up. So, but the property actual,
Will you be able to hang tight while we go through the rest of the people to be heard, then we'll hit, that discussion, because that's one of the ones coming up?
yes.
Alright, thank you, and thank you for bringing this up. Who else wanted to speak? 1, 2, 3. Who wants to go first, really? Kevin, go for it.
Oh,
Kevin Allard, 5421 State Route 7, Hoosick Falls, New York. First question is DOH and blood testing.
Yes, that was one of the things that came on my conference call, we discussed it in a bit of detail. They have just about gotten everything ready, in a sense, we're trying to find the time to get all the information out to you guys, but we're hoping that it's probably early July it started.
Okay, so now July, okay, because we've been hearing June, so now it's July.
That's probably more my fault than theirs, cause they've been doing a lot to get things ready and I've been.
But that's okay, they
Yep.
can schedule out, it's just out a couple of weeks, that's fine. Also, you have, out there, you have a map on the wall from DEC as far as,
Those are all old from.
can we get
Older.
updated ones?
Well, one of the things we're trying to do with EPA and DEC is to get a website where all the information is on there, everything, and as more comes out, it goes there. And one of the things that came out of the meeting with EPA and DEC and DOH and the community group was getting regular mailings or emailings, distributions, that give the latest updates. I don't even like having those up on the wall, and one of my summer goals is to kind of relook
Yeah.
at how things look here. But that being said, we're trying to get everything accessible and in an easy format so that you can have access to it, whether you're at home or at the library or here.
Because it would be great to see, because they're doing testing, continued testing, when they go out to a lot of these properties, to see, are they up, are they down? Is there new places coming online that were zero before, and now all of a sudden they're showing up positive? Probably not, But what would be great to see is if some places are going down.
I can get more information for you on that. You're talking specific to John Street, right? Or
No,
in
no, no,
general?
not John Street, but the town of Hoosick has a map of PFOA, and on it, it has the levels.
Those are the individual well levels.
Individual well levels, right, that's what I'm looking at.
Well, those are flux based on snow melt, heavy rain, and how deep the well is, how
That's
far,
fine, the
yeah,
date that
those
they test,
numbers
but-
are all over,
But they
so.
continue up and down.
Yes.
I mean, if they see something, a trend, West
Yeah.
Hoosick seems to be up all the time now.
In terms of the village, the one trend that we're probably focusing on most is the area between McCaffrey Street and the water park, because there's a lot of questions about how things are moving there and how the office is connected. Within each investigation, they're sort of all at different phases, and I think the latest testing from McCaffrey Street and Liberty Street is gonna lead them to expand that investigation even further.
Because there's also a great deal of testing going on at the landfill too.
Yes, and that, I think they're concluding that this month or next month, and they expect to have some data and reports put together about late summer, early fall.
Lots of new wells for the VOCs too down at the Sandbar.
Yeah, that's
Ju-
the
that's
John
John
Street
Street, yeah.
investigation, yeah.
And some of those new ones, I believe, are related to the Mitsui site, but it's kind of one of those backward things the state does where Honeywell will have
That's
a
an
well.
interesting one.
And then Mitsui will put one right next to it, cause they own those.
The interesting thing with the Oak Mitsui site, which is being surveyed, and that's gonna take a while because they're in the early phases, is that Honeywell is also attached as a
Yes.
responsible party because groundwater there tested positive for PFOA and they never used it. So it's just interesting, and I know that they're doing the soil investigation over the next few months, and then they will shift to the groundwater after that. That's just starting.
Does Mitsui still have their wells down there?
Yes, they do. DC
I would
mentioned-
assume as
yeah,
far as they-
Jim, remember when DC was at plant, Mitsui still has their wells down there, right? Remember they drilled their own wells to use, and, were you in there when we was talking about that, the guy from?
Yeah, they got all those.
The sciencey looking guy from DC, I forget his name.
About Shaw, Will Shaw.
Yeah.
Will Shaw.
Yes, him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those
And
still
are the wells
exist.
that tested positive?
Yeah, well,
Well-
the problem is, what they're doing right now, from what I understand this past week, is it's gonna continue, they're down there, if you've been down there, Kevin, if you notice, there's more holes being dug up and taking out contaminated waste, whatever quote unquote is there.
Lead and arsenic is what they've taken out so far as
So
soils.
far, but that's just the beginning, they still have a whole year. What the plan is, where the wells are down there, and what Brian's talking about is, they're gonna be history. What happens, the same thing we did when we built the new water plant, all the old wells we had, what happens is you, take everything off from the top, and what happens is you pour concrete down into the, to the bottom part of the pit, and then that's when they call it cap and seal. They're gonna do the same thing at Oak Mitsui, but that'd be the last thing that they do, because they have to get all the contaminated waste, well, quote unquote, everything that is contaminated down there for what was ever spilt there from previous years, history or whatever.
They can use those to pump and treat at this point because they're existing and they're larger.
They're not using them, no.
But they could potentially,
But
right?
it's a good
They could,
sample.
but they're not allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's.
Anytime they use water for anything down there, they take it out of the hydrant, our hydrant, which is metered for them to use that water.
And I would assume monitoring wells are gonna be, but they're finishing up the soil
crap in the
phase
ground.
before they go to the groundwater
Pump it out like
phase.
and treat it to dispose of, like they
Yeah,
would.
they
Yeah,
have
yeah.
contaminated and they also.
Anything else?
Same thing that they did with the PFOA one.
Yep.
Two more, you wanna go first?
When we do our.
Thank
yeah.
you. Mary, go first.
Van trucks and,
I'm Marion Stevens,
Thank you, Jim. Sorry.
Weiler Avenue.
Yep.
And, guess I got a couple of complaints here. Number one, we have our wonderful zombie home next to us that's becoming a field
65.
and again a dumping zone again.
Which house is that?
65 Wilder, right?
65 Weiler.
Okay.
And then we have pictures here. And then we also have, I believe it's 6 Ball Street, that is also kind of a dumping ground behind their backyard, which is behind the 65 Weiler, so, they did move out garbage bags finally, from that, place on Ball Street, but, you know, again, my appraisal goes up and I have a dumping ground next to me, so I just, you know, getting tired of the way
I like the
Our-
propane tanks, those are safe.
Does anyone live there? This is a zombie property, no one.
The Zombie property, and then you have the one pile that
Mattresses.
is a renter's property and,
There's a rental home behind us.
behind us.
Okay.
And so, like I said, it's getting, kind of a lot of neglect and things like that.
Didn't they
you know.
clean that
Steve's
up,
down, too.
65, didn't they clean that up last year?
They did, they were coming and mowing it, but nothing has been done on
Not
it
yet,
to
but I'm
this
sure
point.
Mark's got it on his list. He's
Nothing's
toured.
been done.
And,
And it's just deteriorating, like I said, this place is just going down more, they've even got holes in the windows now, the southern windows, that all the stray cats are going down into or whatever else is.
Is that car located at the zombie property?
Huh?
Is that car at the zombie property?
I can't see
It's a
that.
car.
Which
Oh,
one?
no, that's
That's the
six-
rental,
Oh, okay.
that's the rental,
6 Fall Street.
Okay, I know where that is.
The zombies aren't driving anywhere.
and it's just,
What is that house is red tagged, correct? What's the status of that? Mark?
uninhabitable.
Yeah, no, Mark, what's the status in 65?
It's a zombie property.
Well, we got that.
is that one of those that's stuck in foreclosure for a couple years?
Yeah, what's the backstory there?
Still, nothing's changed there. Unfortunately, for the start of the year, when it comes to lawns, there's a process that I have to go through. You have to wait for the grass to grow up.
Well, it's definitely grown.
You issue a citation, you give them a few days to fix it, and then I assign it to the people that we have working for the village to do the lawns and stuff. So that process, we have gone through that process.
Is it in foreclosure with the bank or with the county, or where is it tied up? Where is it stuck?
Probably with the bank. I haven't looked at it recently, but.
You know that one?
Yeah, I mean, probably should, that's been
On
a long-standing one, we should probably look into and see where the holdup is,
On
and
the
if
foreclosure.
at all, we can push along that process, if it's with the county.
It's
to
not
do
on the
something.
foreclosure list, says Ann. So that means
I
it's
have
still in the
county.
process, the waiting period before it finally gets to foreclosure.
Right, well, a lot of the banks, what they do is,
You want these?
they foreclose, then they withdraw the
That's why it's called a
foreclosure.
zombie property.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is, but we have a lot of them, and we have a lot of, you know, it'd be nice to give them an
I mean,
answer,
this
it's
is a
been
nice
that way for
neighborhood.
years.
You know, you live in that neighborhood, and it's a nice neighborhood, except like I said, you have that one area that is pigsty. And it's simple. And it's simple that the things that even happened to the house happened, because it was a beautiful, beautiful home.
But it's also been that way a very long time, so we're, you know, it's one we should probably keep more updated on, so we can move it when we can, if we can. I know those are trickier, because they are in limbo, but then again, it doesn't help the neighborhood, and I know that one,
I
how long
mean,
years
we
has
have a
that been an
neighborhood
issue?
that people take care of their yards. I mean,
It's been like a 7-year, 6-year, it's been a long time, hasn't it?
I think it was listed uninhabitable, what was the date? 2014, 15?
I'm the one that did it, so it's within the last 3 years.
But that it was zombie or that it uninhabitable?
That it was.
Uninhabitable.
So it
I
could
don't
have
know when
been,
the last people were there.
At least 5 years.
Okay.
So, and then the other thing, reverse 911, we are into June now, how are we doing on that, Brian?
we're getting data from the county, we're actually getting closer than we were, wrapping up the school year, this month's been my delay, so I'll take ownership of that, but it's on my list this week of calls to follow up
Because I
on.
know I got
Yep.
the update from the government
Yes,
to
to
redo
re-sign
your
up.
thing and everything else, so that made me think about that. And then another comment I'd like to make is, it's wonderful that people have tag sales and wanna get rid of things, but then I think it's so terrible that those signs are up forever on our poles or half torn down. I'm sorry, this is my home, and you think of some of these things that could make this village look better. You have cleanups, but when you have these signs and things, or even, I think the political signs finally got down.
Yeah, last week.
But
Never give up.
I think,
Well,
those are
it's illegal to hang
simple
those up.
things
Not
that can
it's
make
campaign
your
signs.
village look better. And I think I don't know if there's any regulation,
They put 'em
if
up,
people
they
have a
don't take 'em
tag sale,
down.
if a week by a week later, they should have their
Well,
signs
they're
down.
legal you can't put anything on poles, that's illegal.
Well, guess what?
I know.
Like with that one.
Yeah, those are private property. They're owned by either National Grid or the telephone company, whoever they are today.
Wow.
So, and that's actually trespass technically, and they should not be putting them up to begin
Well,
with,
guess
but,
what,
yeah.
Brian? It's just like they say.
Oh, I know.
Put anything in the mailboxes, but how many things get thrown in your mailbox to say, here, we're doing this?
Alright. Alright,
I agree, you're,
thank you. Jason?
So I'm Jason Von Ganis, I'm 9 High Street, and I got a bunch of things, but I'll try and go super fast.
You've been patient, take your time.
Thanks. So to kind of piggyback over her stuff with the vacant properties, I'm in the process of setting up a land bank. It's a 501c3 pending, it's been pending for like 2 months, so hopefully I can get that up and running soon enough. It's kind of operate like, I have a history of working with, toxic portfolios and mortgages and non-performing stuff and how to get them away from banks, help them write them off of their books and you put them in a not-for-profit, get them rehabbed enough to where they're financeable, or been talks with the folks at Homestead Funding for doing HUD loans, so we can get those properties rehabbed and put them in the hands of people who are owner occupants. So I think that's really super important.
That's great.
So that's one. Who do I talk about about getting a no air brake sign on top of High Street?
problem, New York State will not, it's state route, so they will not allow us to ban them. I know the Martinez's brought that up, looked into that. One thing we can do, which may not be enforceable or not, is we can put one at the entrance to each sign in the village that they're banned in the village and hope truckers fall for it on 22, but we cannot. Am I saying this correctly? Like with the welcome to sign is, a lot of municipalities will put one there saying air brakes.
Makes common sense, I just don't do it in the village, but.
Right, so if you put up the sign saying not to, hope they fall for it and don't do it, but by law, we can't restrict it on 22.
I drive a truck.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they have engine brakes on there. Because if that truck is loaded and you're going down High Street, if that thing is loaded, legally loaded, the brakes itself will not stop that truck when it comes down to the bottom of the hill. That's why they have engine brakes. And they're there for a safety reason, and that's why they're New York State mandatory that they're on there.
But yeah, that's the
That's
only way to
law.
really do it, yeah, that's why you can't, and the state won't,
What else you got for us, Jason?
So maybe to kind of help Neil out a little bit, doing sidewalk repair. It'd be really nice if we get some sort of an upgrade from just coal patch and blacktop. There's gotta be some other better products out there than just throwing coal patch on top of concrete. It just doesn't look good, it's unsightly. A lot of sidewalks out there are actually still in pretty good repair. And, getting a stamp and kind of, whipping up some concrete and kind of getting consistent with what was already done would be just, kind of going back to her saying it'd be aesthetically pleasing.
Are you talking about up by the park?
Just kind of all over.
I know, we've been trying to get our stuff.
And I mean, I'll even do the research.
Okay. 2 thumbs up. Send it my way. I'll give you my email.
You're a one-man CCC.
No, please. I want to do the work. Let me. No.
It's fine. I'll do it. So, in front of St. Mary's, some signs went up for dog waste, which is awesome. I put signs out for all the tenants so that they can do their stuff with their dogs. I go out once a week and I personally pick up as much dog waste as I can, and I'm non-discriminatory. I pick up all of it. But I'd like to offer to buy a dog waste station, which will have the bags out there on the post themselves. It's so just like one step farther, so they'll have bags in it. If people don't even use the bags, that's cool. At least they'll see them and they'll know that you need to maintain this and you take care of it. Like, I don't wanna see it out there just as much as anybody else, and the guys who know it, they don't wanna deal with it either. So it's just a good way to let people know what's up.
Good idea.
That makes
So
sense.
if you guys are okay with me buying this, I'll buy it and put it up.
Neil?
Go for it.
Okay.
Sold.
You sure you don't want to answer, Neil?
What is that? What's that?
See, I don't have to get off the mower to do it.
Well, when I come home, there's a pile in front of my front door, it kinda sucks. So to help
Hey,
Mark out.
Jason, when you find the best price on those, send me that email, because we may consider picking up one for the park here.
Alright, cool. So to help Mark out, I think other municipalities do this, they have a vacant building registry. And it's usually tiered, so like the first year you have to register your building, it's like $100. Second year, 300, third year, 500, and then it kinda stays at 500. And, it's kind of a good way for you guys to maybe generate a little more additional income for your building, codes department. On top of that, it'll, discourage folks from hanging on to vacant properties. And 9 times out of 10, that money just gets billed at closings from banks anyways, because it's not actually individuals. So it goes back to that whole like zombie property type situation. So those fees just get rolled up into a closing out of, when taxes come clean at closings. And then all this gets dispersed anyway. So you get a couple extra $100 here and there. Like it behooves you to do it, and it works on a whole bunch of different levels. So that may be something you want to investigate.
Great, keep going.
Alright, so I got a bad one. Now I have 2 asks, I'm sorry.
Alright, no, that's fine.
So on my water bills, I get billed for, I have 3 commercial properties, 2 of them I get billed for waste removal. But I pay for my own waste removal, and the village has never taken any of my garbage ever. So I'm probably $2,000 or $3,000 into the village for paying for waste removal, and they've never taken a stitch of garbage. I paid for it all myself. I'm not looking for money back, but moving forward, like I don't want to pay for something I'm not getting.
How is our contract set up?
This is not the first time it's been brought up, because it's a situation where you probably rent a dumpster for.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So I mean, if I'm paying Casella or county, I don't need to be paying them twice just to do the job once.
Yeah, we need to look into that policy. I don't know what the policy is.
Well, I don't know, I think it started with Jamie, Jamie's business over there and.
Oh, yeah.
And
There you go.
his
That's
tenants,
part of the waste.
they
Well,
have,
they water and sewer.
they have the dumpster.
Mm-hmm.
But I know you don't
He
have to
still
have
has
it
to
because
pay for
I have a
his
property that doesn't get
apartment.
billed. And I'm not bringing that up to say, hey, I want you to bill me now. I'm just bringing it up to illustrate, hey, this is a situation that I know can happen. So I have a property, I'm not paying for garbage.
Is that Center Street?
Talking about it,
So
why
it-
can't we?
Yeah, because they probably have their own
try with
dumpsters at
county
one
waste
point.
to get
I got my own too now.
We
And I was told that
contacted
at
them
zoning when I first got my use
things,
for St.
and
Mary's,
they
they're like,
paid.
you can never use you will never pick up your garbage. I'm like, that's cool, I'm paying for it
My own
anyways.
dumpster.
But I just
For
keep paying
businesses.
for it.
But you have
So-
residential, is
they
it
do
tied
have
to
to pay for
residential, not
apartments.
commercial, is
So
that
you're
why?
saying,
I answered earlier, 2 families commercial.
so you're saying that if we contract with Connie Waste to
I
provide
agree with you.
dumpsters,
It's-
they would pay for the dumpsters? Okay.
under contract, because they have to pay for the apartments whether they have a dumpster or not, per apartment.
We'll have a follow-up
We'll
on
have
this.
to look on it.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
idea.
You're about the 4th or 5th one,
Yeah,
that's
it's just-
about the,
I mean, I wouldn't go to a bar and order beer and not expect to get it. Like, you just should get what you pay for. So.
I'd go there. Alright, point
2
taken.
more. So you know how it's gonna be opening up pretty soon, and Lyman Street is beat. I get it. It's a crappy road and not a real cool part of town. But pretty soon I'm gonna have people coming from all over to visit this place. So I think it would behoove the village to put a little effort into making it look a little better over there, so that folks that are coming from Bennington, Troy, Albany, Saratoga, who are traveling to come, experience what I'm trying to build over there. Like it will look better and the village will show better.
Do you mean along the factory, the specialty installation?
Yeah, it goes
So the
from like the
railroad-
sandbar up specialty.
Yeah, the railroad owns a substantial piece of that where the freight depot was.
Right.
How far, Neil, he's gone?
No, sir.
Oh, yes, he's hiding. How wide is the road we own there? What can we do there? Hi.
It's more or less just a building that we maintain.
Cause the freight, they kind of paved a little right where the freight depot was slightly, or we did, or,
We've got maybe a 15 foot space down through there, so.
Brian, do you have a contact with the railroad from
Yes.
Greenway? Why don't you contact them because I know in some communities along the right of ways, they maintain the vegetation, but for some reason in Hoosick Falls, they don't.
This is the road, this is
they
Unahawk?
generally come through and do
Yeah. So who owns this?
slightly different, they, spray, herbicide. They have to get permits to do that and put it
Barbara
in,
Fricky on that?
but they're currently being fined for dumping ties,
There
I
you
think
go.
in Johnsonville and in a couple of places in Rensselaer County along the right of way.
But I know,
Yeah,
Spot specialty, yeah. They
yeah,
just
so
don't
they,
dump stuff over.
they're very bellicose about.
Jason, who owns the property
stuff.
right here.
But I will
south of
reach
you
out to
towards
him
Barber and
about the-
Fricky?
It's under contract, I'll own it and soon.
Kevin, I'll reach out
So you're gonna
to
basically
see
make it into a parking
along
lot?
there.
one of the
That is
workers
my
told me
parking
that
Oh,
Okay,
they do
okay.
maintenance on some
But
of
the
the
point is, the area looks rough.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
All right.
there's,
mostly
Yeah.
talking about the area between the,
Is it old,
Yamaha and the railroad track.
Oh,
Yeah.
that road.
This spot right
Because
here.
you're not, I don't want people accessing the building from the front, because, you know, there's only so much space between that and, the youth center.
Yeah.
And part of me buying this lot is so that I can provide parking for the youth center as well. So, because they don't have any parking either, so I can kinda, you know, help them out a little bit, I need it either way. But, so the folks are gonna have to come in on Lyman Street in order to get down, like, driving up towards Fricky's and then bang a left and then get into the lot.
Well,
So-
that section between Barbara Fricky's and your place, the railroad pretty much owns right up to
The lot.
the lot.
Well, it comes up as a village street.
Do they own
Yeah.
up to the road? Do they own up to Lyman Street, or do they own
We-
that road there?
We had to jump through hoops to put our sewer line down to.
Yeah, it was a, yeah.
They own the dirt road as well, correct?
Lines there too.
Pay a
So they own the dirt road right here?
What's that?
They own the dirt
We're
road
not
too,
sure.
right, Sir Dam Street, is that
They're going
Some
on
on the
this.
side and,
from River to
railroad
Cary?
tracks goes
Well,
up
they're
to
on
the railroad
Lyman
tracks,
Street,
both
so
sides.
I don't know. I don't remember what was that.
That's
Well, that could just be Google.
They broke ones.
Alright.
Alright, so we'll figure something out with that. You know, just boo-hoo the village, like, just a little look better. I got one last one, so I saved the toughest one for last. Is that, there's 38,000 cases of Lyme disease in Rensselaer County this last year. And the best way I know to combat and get rid of Lyme disease is with chickens and or guinea hens.
Chicken.
So,
He's gonna be that guy to bring chickens up at a village
Here's the
board
thing.
meeting.
Yeah, that's
Guinea
fun.
hen.
hear me out.
No, no,
So,
You're right.
I know people who have chickens in Brooklyn where the density is 38,000 people, or no, what is it? 37,000 people per square mile. In Hoosick Falls, the density is 3,000 people per square mile. We're in a right to farm town, and I don't know why we can't have chickens or what happened. I don't know any of the history. But it sounds like it was more of a disciplinarian situation instead of being able to like turn a negative into a positive. So maybe instead of disciplining the entire village for the wrong acts of a few people, it's a good opportunity to like maybe educate some people on animal husbandry and how to do it well and the right way. And maybe you have like a permit, so you gotta pay $100 to be able to get your chickens. And if you mess up, Mark can come through and be like, no chickens, and then that's it.
Well, I agree,
And
and I
obviously no roosters.
agree with Jason with that, and I know from the previous board, when the discussions came up, that there was myth after myth after myth that are, with a quick Google search, debunked quickly. You know, they don't attract predators, fox don't have radar for chickens, they do more benefit for communities. Where the issue comes into, with permitting, maybe it's also a permission from your adjacent neighbors type thing.
Exactly.
You know, maybe if your neighbors agree, kinda like a variance with a fence, that it's a case by case, yearly you pay a fee. That, yes, and if you're not doing it right, that's revoked and you have to get rid of them. I think making it a very set where it makes the people who, I don't know why they're gonna have an issue next door, I'd prefer to have less ticks as well. I know you had a loss from that, and I have been an advocate of having chickens in a rural community for homesteading. So, what?
I wanna move on. Point taken, we're gonna discuss
Well,
it.
it's an important issue
But-
that we.
No, I
yeah.
understand, there, I don't know the history either, all I know is there is quite a
I think
history
there
about
was a
it.
zoning, if I remember reading there.
But we will talk about it.
That can be changed.
Thank you.
That one I can't make work for you, but you can at least talk about it, figure out how to make it right.
Great, thank you, Jason.
But we should add it to a future agenda to discuss.
Alright, we are off to reports. We have a treasury report. What's that? I know, I just finished page 1. Do we have a treasury report tonight?
Didn't see one.
Alright, I think she's basically finishing the fiscal year, so she's just getting that taken care of, which is insane.
That's what I figured.
Yep. Alright, police report. Bob, Ash, someone?
He gave it to us.
No, they have
What's that? Minutes? I missed the minutes?
Yeah, it's at the bottom.
Oh, jeez, I'm sorry. We do, approval for minutes, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back a step. I did not get to preview them, my apologies. I do have a couple corrections that I have marked on the first page, parentheses around something. On the third page, it said we're aiming to begin round 2 in early June, right after a gap conversation where I just wanna incorporate of blood testing, so take notes about blood testing. And I had one more. These are the minutes. And the 6th page, there's just a period missing. That was anything. I normally get this done ahead of time before we send it to you guys, so my apologies. That's me and my crazy couple weeks. But I have those 3 changes otherwise. Do I have to make a motion to take those changes in, or do I motion to
Or to
approve the
table
minutes
it?
with those changes?
You can make a motion and
Accept them
As with regard
Okay.
You can
Do you have
accept
any
as
other
amended.
changes you want to say? Okay. I'm looking for a motion to accept the minutes with those changes.
Motion.
Craig?
Second.
Second. Ben, any further conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Judy, for the minutes. A lot of typing. Alright, I just lost my agenda. There we are. Now we're on to the reports. We'll take the code enforcement report right now because I don't see Bob Ash.
There's a man.
See the situation right now? You got a situation.
Yes.
Code enforcement report?
Basically, it's busy. So, most recently, I think, 25, either, law complaints or observations of my own or whatever, but I've opened up 25 cases, 10 of them have closed out so far.
Okay.
Like I said before, it is a process to go through to make it, legal, I guess, according to our law, and someone even questioned that about, them sending somebody in to do the mowing and taking care of it, so. But that's kind of the process that we have, and that's what we follow. So it does take some time to get to them, and unfortunately, the guys who end up doing them don't care for it either, because by the time they get to them, the grass is 2 feet high already. But I can't write a violation until it's already a foot high, and then I gotta give some time, and so then it ends up
being 2 feet high
by the time we get somebody to it. So unfortunately, that's just the process.
So Mark, if they're a habitual person that doesn't mow their lawn, you don't have to write a letter the following year, or do you?
Well, I have done that on some of these. I've just gone ahead and, initially, like I told Ed, if there's properties you were taking care of last year and you see that they're already, heading there this year, go ahead and start. And then I'll get paperwork to catch up to it. Just so that we're not getting that far behind. With Jerry, we did it on one of his properties, that he did last year. And then today, yesterday, I found a couple others that he did last year that we hadn't started yet, so. So we're trying to get to them, and then, on top of that, just, and I'm not complaining, but it's just the fact of the matter is that when I get into some of these cases such as Ugel and, Daniels and things like that, these things are time-consuming things. And, it's easy to spend a day on one thing, and you'll see on the report, as of right now, I have 133 active complaints or inspections open, 52 building permits. Basically, you're creeping up on 200 active cases that I have open. So there does become a time management thing, and you can only get to so many things. Try hard, but you just can't get to it all. So
Can you check out 6 Ball Street, by the way, or 6, yeah. Add that to your list.
I added it to my list already. I try and do things, when they come in, I try to, but, even, where I keep my list is pretty long. Just trying to prioritize some things. Sometimes I happen to be going by. Sounds like 6 Ball Street, I gotta walk into the backyard, or I guess I can do it based on a complaint, so. But, so there's, anytime you have any questions on all these, we have, you can see, red tag properties is uninhabitable, we're at 18. There's other vacant properties around that I have a list. I know, recently I sent this to the fire chief, he requested this list. I know it's not a complete list, because these are just the properties that I've come in contact with for one reason or another. But I know there's other ones that are out there for sale that are vacant properties that I haven't looked at or touched.
When I started, one of the things came up was supporting code enforcement and getting things moving, and it was nice to see. This past month, we had our first court date that was set aside just for code enforcement issues. It's been nice to have Andy helping us out and getting these procedures working and moving forward.
And I expect as the word continues to get out on that, and you'll see on there, I did put on many of these court cases that we have, the fines. But I did not put that the case was closed. I think only one of them did I say that the case was closed. Because on many of them, the fine is just really the start. They still have to comply. So that's part of this process. And if they don't comply, then we go back to court again.
Alright.
I mean, some of these fines seem relatively low. Why, is that because our law is written that way? Is it state law, like $50, $100? It seems like,
That's at the judge's discretion, and Andy, you can chime in if you want. Our law is set up so that our fines are between $50 and $250. So it's at the judge's discretion.
can we pass a local law to raise some of these minimums that,
That's within your discretion, you can do that, you have the ability to set the penalty. What Mark and I have done on these cases is really dependent on the effort of the property owner. And so if there is an effort to address these, we do ask the court to impose a penalty. Maybe not the maximum allowable under your code, because there's good faith efforts by the property owner, but we do ask for a penalty. Sometimes the court will set 50 on a particular case, maybe 100. If there is no effort by the property owner to address this, we are asking for the higher penalty. Just realize, each of these 50 to 250 per violation, they can add up, but in order for Mark to increase those penalties, he has to reissue appearance tickets every week, and there are administrative costs associated with that, so that's something the board can look at if you want to address the monetary penalties, but that is set in your code.
okay.
And we have seen a fine as high as $1,000.
Alright, thank you. Any other questions?
Mark, is there a lot of that clerical,
It's not really a lot.
or just mostly the, under your certification, things you need to do?
A lot of it is things I need to do. I do think about like how we could incorporate somebody else into trying to do some of this, and other departments do it, so there has to be a way. I'm just not sure what it is at this point. We'd have to kind of figure that out and take a look at how other departments run. Because a lot of this stuff is by observation, it's things that I'm doing out in the field. I'm writing up the charges, so I'm really the one who's, has to kind of run with it, I feel like, so.
Just wondering if Marie had more hours, that'd be helpful.
At this point, right, we talked about this, Marie's doing a lot of help in the office, especially the
She's
season
coming
they
in
just
and
came from.
she does do my filing stuff, which is a big help. I don't have to worry about that, so I leave stuff in a pile, and once in a while, every couple weeks, she'll file everything, so.
So, we have it.
Yeah.
But
I guess Mark's probably trying to say is another building inspector to help him with.
Well, I'm not actually, I'm not pushing for that, I'm just stating the facts, a lot of times, like, let's just say, let's use 6 Ball Street, okay, I go up there, I take a look at it, I open up the case tomorrow. So I have no problem opening cases, which is why I have so many open cases, in hopes that people will comply when I send that initial notice of violation. What we're running into now is that because of all of the open cases, following up on the ones that are open becomes a challenge. Because I almost have enough in each day, many days, to just work on the stuff that comes in that day, try and deal with that stuff. And you don't always get, and you know what, it's springtime. That, later on this year, that may change where I don't have as much of that stuff. The lawn stuff is smoothed out, I have less of that. And I can get, because I was, at one point, I was almost caught up with all the cases as far as the follow-ups. I'm pretty organized as far as, I looked at this today, I put it on my calendar for 30 days from now to come back and look at it again, see if they've complied. And I was pretty good, doing pretty good, but all these other things that creep in this time of year, especially with building permits, the lawn and stuff like that, it adds to it. It will smooth out, it'll get better, I think as the time goes on.
No, my thought was that asking the town building inspector whether he'd be interested in helping out peak times where we need maybe an extra person.
seasonally is what you're thinking?
Well, actually, there's some grants available to actually, for shared services where Hoosick, instead of us having, the town having a code inspector, where you can go and partner with Cambridge Greenwich, for example, and Berlin, and have a shared group, which actually expands. New York State will do some grants for that, where it's shared services, it helps to redistribute the workload, but also can help when we might have somebody here who's not from here sometimes, and you might go, that might actually be something we look into. That can also help with efficiency and caseload, and and probably getting things.
But what's the town building inspector's workload? I mean, could he?
He's already mentioned it about increasing the hours. I could easily make it a case for having a full-time inspector in the town.
He's not a full-time,
He's not, our town inspector part-time.
no, you.
He's,
I'm full-time.
he's full-time in the
You're full-time.
village, yeah.
Just a
Alright.
thought, Mark.
Looking, any other questions? Looking for a motion to accept the code enforcement report?
Motion.
Second.
Second, Brian and Ben with the second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Clerk's report, please.
I don't have anything. We've had 8 property sales since. You think
8
it's
property
funny?
sales? 8
8.
property sales, okay.
Sales of property,
Alright.
whatever, I don't know, since June 6th.
Your mind is still spinning
When I
from
put that
all the
in.
billing, yeah. Alright,
Lord mercy, I've been trying to do an agenda since Friday. Thank you, Andy, so much, because without you, I don't know where I would be.
we had a couple phone calls to straighten out all the agenda stuff today, that was fun.
I took a vacation from the 5th to 12th.
And boy, do
of
you regret
May,
it.
And when I got back,
Right.
it was,
Hit the ground running.
the water payments and whatnot.
Yeah.
We're looking into paying by card. We're looking into a system
For water bills.
for the water bills and tax bills also
Yep.
through BAS. I mean, that's not gonna happen now, it's not gonna help us now, but by December, hopefully, we can get something going on that, because it's,
Yeah.
the way we are now, like I said, we do the reading. 3 of us in the office enter, each person, in 3 different accounts.
Yep.
For everybody in the water,
Yep.
that uses water. Then the bills come in and you go back in and you pay them in QuickBooks, you also pay them in the water program, it takes so long.
So, yeah, we've started talking about if
And
there's
so
any ways
now,
we could
yeah.
get
If you
credit
looked
card.
at Square.
It's just,
Square.
What's Square?
Square's what, you go into retail, they use an iPad, or they put a chip into the phone, but they
Oh,
also
so
do
they can do
online.
it here.
Yeah.
We're looking into all
Or
of
they
these
can
things.
do online
all
as
that.
well, they do
Yes.
all of
so
it, yeah.
this,
Because
it's
it's
so much work.
a ton of work and it's bogging down the office.
But say
and
it
other
can
stuff.
be an iPad type thing, but also
Yep.
do online,
Yeah.
I mean, Mike
Yep.
uses, I think Mike has it iron, it's.
So we started to
Yeah,
look
Mike has
into
it on.
that,
Yeah, we're gonna look into that and we're hoping that we can maybe get something for the December billing cycle.
correct.
Yep.
And another thing that I did not put on the agenda, but I think I mentioned it to Ben. That's not it. It's about, family leave.
Mm-hmm.
Our policy has doubled. Denise put in some calls,
Is that this here?
yeah. You can
You
read
guys got a
that if
copy
you
of
want
that?
to.
Oh wait, is this,
Yeah.
this is vacation?
Oh, no, this
Uh,
is, this
yeah,
is a
that's
different thing,
different.
this is a
That's
different thing. We're looking
Right.
into this, but the quarterly premiums
Have
for
doubled.
disability insurance
Out of this
have
world.
doubled all of a sudden. And we're looking into,
It is this.
basically what the heck and why.
Yeah.
'Cause it's out of nowhere.
It's due to the paid family leave act.
Oh,
You can opt out of that. Do we have to,
that was today, right? This came up today?
yeah.
Yeah. So we have to look into that.
Is there a certain period that you have to opt out of family leave, or,
And I don't know the answer to that. I'll get it for you.
okay, because it's a lot, our bill is
Yeah, it,
great. So Denise
That was very
started some
unexpected.
calls and found out that, let's see, I was suggested after discussion with the board about this, that at least a motion to be made to write a letter to Workman's Comp.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, pretty much what they want, Andy.
anything else?
Yeah.
Alright. Any questions? Looking for a motion to accept the clerk's report.
Second.
Thank you, Craig, thank you, Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I have a community service report from Jerry, who sent it to me 3 hours ago and I already forwarded it to you. Completed 98,
It's not on there.
he just sent it 3 hours ago. He completed 98 hours for the month of April and May. Projects included, but are not limited to, weekly cleaning of the town of Hoosick office space, detailed police cars, cleaned water plant, cleaned police station, swept parking lots, topsoil, and clean up parks, and spring cleanup at the firehouse. So that is the community service report. I can't answer any questions, so we'll just go right to looking for motion to accept. Motion. Craig?
Second.
Thank you, Kevin. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Committee reports. Craig, you wanna go first? I have to run to the office and get a power cable. Be right back. Can you slide it for me?
Oh, I'm not sure I have anything prepared.
Do you have anything?
I keep
Yeah,
thought you
let
asked
me know
me.
tomorrow
Oh,
or whatever.
Do you have anything?
We have to
No.
do.
Alright,
Review
Brian, you're up.
motion Contingent on
I'm not
what you
gonna,
say tomorrow.
I would say water plant, we got an update on the GAC change out. LWRP had another meeting, we have another one coming up, just to explain to people what that is more. What?
Committee.
Committees, yeah, it was good. What are the committees about? I don't know. Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about the sewer. Is there anything else I do? I'm gonna keep it short. I'm good.
Zoning board, planning board.
What?
That's
If
not
they,
me.
if they have any meetings coming up, could you let me?
Yes, because I haven't had time to do pretty much anything but enter water and
Next
send
time,
out deck.
next time you have.
I
one,
have to reschedule, and I have to talk to Andy about the law on this. We had a public hearing on something at the end of Main Street. Letters were sent out on it. No one came to the hearing, no one complained until 2 or 3 late, 2 or, yeah, 2 or
Can we
3
get copies of
weeks
those letters
later.
or emailed to us so we know when these are? Would that be?
All of them, you really wanna come, okay.
Just so we know, like if
Sure.
somebody asked for awareness.
Craig loves
right?
that, I know.
Just an email.
But
Just an
I
email the
have to
list,
talk to him about whether I have to advertise another hearing, because now the neighbors in that area are very interested.
Is this the
So-
old Harrison vending building?
Yeah,
Can the neighbors
So,
get,
that's
the
why I-
neighbors typically get
Hi.
notified
You good?
by mail?
absolutely.
Excuse me, yeah?
Oh, Bill Hazen would like to return to the zoning board.
Bill Hazen, I sent out
Oh,
the,
great.
I know, he came to the
Great.
window.
Can we just-
Wonderful, I sent him
can
out
we
the
approve that tonight?
zoning. Oh,
I skipped all my stuff, I'm good.
yes.
Do we need to approve?
Bill
Ben
Hazen,
and,
zoning board.
What's that?
Kevin just asked a question.
I just came back, so
Bill Hazen would like to be on the zoning board. He was a former zoning board member and he was very good at
That's
the
good.
position, so.
we have to approve those, right? Do we need anything official to approve them, or can we
Yes,
just?
You need to appoint him to the board and for what term?
I don't know
5
the
years.
term, but I'll,
It's at least 20 years. What is the actual terms?
it's 5 years.
if they're 5
Is it a
years,
5-year
I have-
term?
Yeah,
So we can do that tonight?
Someone makes a
right.
motion, right?
I'll make the motion to appoint Bill Hazen to
Kevin.
the zoning board.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
So Ben, any further discussion? I really wanna throw out there the 20-year.
I was gonna say, we doing an addendum?
Alright,
Good idea.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries, thank him, that's great news. Alright, did you have any?
I punted.
he's done.
Trying to speed.
You know,
I
for
bet you
once,
yours what?
Okay, Ben,
I don't
sorry.
really have anything. Brian and I talked before the meeting, tonight
Yep.
about the, upcoming, cable stuff from Spectrum. I got an email from Jen Hyde from the town, who would like to see us go in together.
Yes.
So I am going to, once I talk to Brian tonight, and we discussed what we had to discuss about it, and if he was the lead, I'm the second on it. So I'm gonna send an email back to her with Brian included, and we'll get started to work on that.
Great.
So,
Great,
and that's all I have.
alright. Kevin?
I have Neil's report for the highway department. He's requesting that we hire Anthony Holbert for a summer seasonal position starting after graduation. He is 18 years of age. The problem with seasonal employees, they have to be 18 to run a weed whacker. So he's looking to fill that position plus advertise for some other summer help.
When we did this last year, we interviewed people.
I don't, not for seasonal, these are seasonal workers, just,
Not for,
No, I remember them. We cause I remember who we said yes to and who we said no to, I think. It was the season last year was Alex and Andrew. Right? I feel like we interviewed them. Cause I remember Bobby.
right now, he's only gotten one application so far and he
you know, and the thing is, if you wait till July.
Right, it's too
There's
late.
no sense in having anything.
Is he really the only application we have right now?
Yeah.
I think if you got an 18-year-old kid that wants to work, you better snap it up pretty quick.
Sure.
Well, I mean, I know him, so it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure
He's
we
gonna be
follow
going
our
off to
procedures.
college the end of August, so.
Yep. Alright. So can we make that motion right now?
You can.
Alright,
I make the motion.
I'll second it.
Ryan, Ben, any further discussion? When would you want him to start, like, yesterday?
After graduation.
What's that?
Graduation.
After graduation, that way
Okay.
here he's, I don't know what he's got left for testing and stuff, so.
So June 22nd, about 8 p.m.
Yeah, works.
Yeah, we'll give it a nice shift after graduation.
And does your board generally set the hourly rate?
It's,
Any
feel
board
like
will
it's
set
minimum
it.
wage.
Yeah.
If it's in the
Yeah.
budget,
Budget.
that's okay.
Yeah.
budget item,
Okay.
so.
Also, Brian, can we advertise not so much in the newspaper, but social media so we can get applications a little bit quicker?
For
Yeah.
summer work? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Neil, do you want me to just get you a quick description of what they'd be doing, or?
Just seasonal summer work. You know?
Alright, keep it vague, it's good.
You know,
Alright.
it's-
And other duties as assigned.
Mowing, weed whacking, that kind of thing?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they have to be 18? Is that what we were?
Preferably, yeah.
Yeah.
We still have the motion on the floor to, so any other discussion on the motion? It was already seconded, yep, so all in favor? Opposed? Carries, alright. Could we also give authority to, could the board give authority to the mayor or deputy mayor to do another hiring, so I don't have to wait till July?
No,
We have to meet as a board,
that's correct.
okay.
It's a board appointment.
Special meeting.
Sorry, I tried,
Nice try, man.
I tried, alright. Alright,
Alright, some other stuff on Neil's
yeah.
list. He's got a big list here, it's like a Christmas list. Request to purchase and order an upgraded trailer to move equipment. The money is budgeted, we got 2 quotes, both from local dealers, J.C. Tractor for $15,428, and Capital Tractor for $18,496. He's trading in a old trailer that's not that old, a couple of years old. This will accommodate the,
Just confirm your village procurement policy, is 2 quotes okay for the equipment purchase?
In these, well, yeah, with these amounts, yeah.
With these amounts, it requires board approval.
These amounts are all right, yeah.
Yeah.
To get quotes.
Oh,
But it-
certainly,
it's
the
too
amounts are
enough, I mean,
below,
do they-
there's no need to bid it, but
Right,
do you have a village procurement policy that,
does the policy
2 quotes.
specify 2 quotes is enough?
Yeah.
Okay,
okay,
alright,
then yes, you
great,
can add.
great.
he's trading in the old, other trailer that can't accommodate the heavier equipment. We just buying the excavator and it won't fit on the old trailer, so this will
Right.
accommodate more tonnage. I'm not sure how many tons it would.
This trailer should take up to 32,000, right, 16, 18 tons.
Wow. Okay,
Alright. Do we have to make a motion for that?
yes.
Yes.
Motion.
Oh, go on.
Ben got
I'll
it.
make the motion.
A second.
Alright, any further discussion? I know it's already budgeted for, so just kind of a thing we have to do policy wise. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Carries.
This is a request to discuss in ordering 2 pickup trucks. The trucks are under state contract pricing for one full-size truck for the sewer department to replace their van, which I don't think is even operable at this point for equipment. And the other is for the highway department, and I guess Neil was looking for some discussion on that. The money he has budgeted for the sewer truck, it's $31,192, and he has that budgeted in his budget. And the highway truck, I think he has,
Working on that one.
he's working on that one, funding for
So-
that one.
What happened was that the sewer van pretty much crapped the bed.
No pun intended.
Yeah. I've already got budgeted for a new pickup truck replacement in the highway budget. So if we can at least get the one replacement to get the sewer department back up and running, it's also an extra plow truck for us during the winter time. So, and it takes 20 weeks to build it. So it'd be December
Where are these two coming from budget wise? One of them is coming from.
They're state contract numbers,
Okay.
so we don't have to put it out to bid. And they would be coming from Harmony Ford,
No, I mean, but in terms of budgeting, this comes from your budget?
yes.
Both of them?
The sewer truck, right now would be coming from that, so if we could get approval to get that going, I gotta find some more money to get this other truck.
Okay.
Hopefully next.
It's coming out of the sewer budget?
I may have a line on some funding for the second truck, but I obviously don't have anything to report on that, or you
So you don't have to pay until the truck's actually come in,
Yeah.
so that would be.
So you want us to commit to the first truck,
At least commit to the first truck
and then
tonight.
we'll use time to see if we can find some additional funds.
Right.
And I may have some grant funds, for that, but I have to have a conversation, so.
So we would be looking to get the 31,192 approved tonight.
Because it will take that many
It's
weeks or
gonna
months.
take 20 weeks to.
That's a
get-
short.
Are you guys have a plan for being without it for 20 weeks?
I'm gonna get some exercise.
Okay.
They've got the bicycles.
We'll get you a really big backpack.
Yeah, we're gonna use the PD bicycles to get around.
We'll get you a Segway.
How did you decide on Ford versus Chevy?
Oh, don't open
Oh
that
my
can of
gosh.
worms.
Rather talk chicken?
State contract.
The state contract.
There you go. Well, there's Chevys on state contract also.
Well, the price I got from a Chevy dealer doesn't beat this.
Okay.
And
31.
GMC and Dodge and all the rest, they've got the best for what you're looking for.
Yeah,
I'm a Dodge guy, so believe me.
Because, believe it or not, just the basic pickup
So I
truck.
said, don't open that one, right?
I know, I've been a
You
Ford, I'm a
guys-
Chevy guy and I got a Ford.
Do you guys have any other questions on this?
No,
I'm good for, since you've already budgeted for the one, to pull the trigger on the one and give us some time to see if we can find funding for the other.
Neil has the specs on the one for the sewer truck, if anybody wants to look at that.
That's the one where you want us to pull the trigger on, right? The sewer
Yeah.
truck?
Yeah.
Alright.
It says pickup truck on top.
Alright. In that case, we're looking for a motion.
Motion. Second.
Thank you, Craig, and Brian second. Any further discussion?
You know, just-
And just make sure, Dan, that the motion indicates that this is being purchased off the state contract and
Yeah.
that the village is allowed to piggyback.
Yep, thank you.
Does it come with any free satellite radios when you guys are out plowing during the,
It
during the
doesn't
Super
even come
Bowl?
with the
I
CD
tried to
player.
get heated seats, you know, and massage.
During the
Wow.
Super Bowl, I felt bad. You guys are out plowing. So.
You guys went base on this.
Yeah.
Too bad.
The last
Appreciate
truck
that.
Bill got, you still have to roll the windows up with a crane.
Yeah, that's the one I'm borrowing.
And that was supposed to be electric windows, so.
Just trying to throw in a little extra for you.
Alright, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. We'll work on the other truck hopefully next meeting.
The other thing is the first full week of July, the highway department will be closed for July 4th. The annual stuff is being done at the transfer station, cleaning, mowing, trimming, service cleaning, trucks and equipment, catch basin repairs, blacktopping, signs, and a whole lot more. That's no report.
Alright. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Kevin. In that case, we are on to old business, because it doesn't look like Bob is busy, cannot give his report right now. Alright, the first one is discussion regarding bidding of the sewer project. This was a sewer project as a review that started back in 2015, 2014, 2015.
15, I believe.
Based on the age and condition of a couple things in particular, the force main, which gets everything back to the wastewater treatment plant. We put it out for bid in April. The bids came back high, very high, higher than we expected. The project had originally been cited as a maximum of I think 3.9 or 4.2 million.
Actually, it was 3.7.
3.7, okay. But the cost of this via the bids was surprisingly high, and I wanna say could have increased the cost another million, I think. Now, we did recently get a grant from the state through the WIA set of funding that gave us a quarter of the total grant, was $925,000 or something like that. Applying that, it almost brings us back to where we were supposed to be. I'm not satisfied with that. We had a very good conference call, with Andy on it. Craig got to listen, and I know Kevin was unavailable. I was there, MRB Group, who's doing the sewer project, was there. I sent you guys the notes of this. The basic gist is, and I know we've had a lot of conversations, it's simply too much to ask at that price. We have to do our due diligence to see what we can do to lessen the load on this. The possibilities are basically as follows. A, we accept the bid. It's the least risk, but we also know what we're signing up for. I don't think any of us are satisfied. B, we can put it back out to bid. And this comes up with a couple caveats that we discussed. The first thing is we could actually split the bid into two bids. One, we noticed that I think our lowest bid overall was ended up being the highest for the pump station. So there's a possibility of saved costs there. The other thing we talked about was the possibility of if and when we put it back out for bid, we are less specific to how they do the force main, because the force main is the biggest amount of work. It's a lot of piping for a lot of distance.
It's like
But this,
4,000.
what's that?
It's 4,600 feet, I think.
It's really far. And I know previously the village had looked into going under the river, and it just wasn't an option geologically speaking and financially speaking. It's just not an option.
Well, that's one of the reasons we're trying to do this project, because we already have a force main that goes under the river, and we have no way of inspecting that force main.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, Bob will not be joining us tonight. So I'm sorry. Getting back to that. So the option, but this ties into the Greenway, is they had looked into directional drilling, because that's the least messy in a sense and requires the least amount of cleanup. But there's a possibility of giving them the option of direct drilling versus the standard trench drilling. Could come out cheaper, but has huge effects on the Greenway. It would require, I mean, they're supposed to return it back to the way it was, as best you can when you're digging 4,700 feet of trench. But these are conversations that we wanted to see what all of our options were. So I sent you guys the notes on this. My personal thought is that we need to put it back out to bid. Everyone seemed to agree that the best season to do that is between Thanksgiving and the New Year, because that's when all the contractors are starting to look ahead to the next layer of work, with the idea being we will hopefully get more responses and get more competitive bids and get the cost down. That being said, it comes with risk, because there's additional administrative costs that will go into setting up the bids. And there's the possibility that the expense gets bigger over a year. So there's a risk to it. It's not a guarantee. Sort of that. I guess that's my update on that. If you guys want to chime in with anything that you thought about or read, Kenny, Neil as well. If you guys want to chime in on anything, that's because we would definitely appreciate your thoughts on this as well. Do you guys have any?
You know, the only thing I can think of doing money saving is, like Kenny talked about this morning, was just restoring Lyman Street with the existing blacktop. You know, once they come in, they put back the blacktop they ripped out, and then we can go in there and pave the street. And, you know,
instead of them
paving the whole street,
doing the whole street, they just fix it where they dug, and then, you know, eventually, I don't know if you had that street slated to be
well, that's the thing, that street
milled and paved is a mess.
way overdue for paving, and I put off the little old lady down the end of the street year after year because of the sewer project that's supposed to happen. You know, we get the sewer project done, then we repave the street, so.
I know I'm talking with Dave Luce too, part of the line issue was the line under the river. Early on, and I'm not sewage, but it was one discussion at some point of following kind of the existing route, but then going over the trestle, but not wanting to deal with Pan Am. Have we actually explored, instead of being under the river, over the trestle there and then continuing underground?
I think we did, and I think that we decided, I mean, I think we voted on it. I don't even, maybe before you guys were even in office.
It was before we were here.
Yeah, that just isn't the way to go. I mean, you'd have to hang it on the trestle, you know, you got all that vibration, the shaking,
It's not ideal in other words, because it's on the other trestle, but you want to take it off there and go under.
They originally were talking putting like a catwalk that people could walk from the flood wall.
Yeah, that was one idea. Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, it was a greenway, I remember that.
Then there's the other issue of dealing with the railroad, which is.
Right.
And right now, all all that sewer line that we're replacing runs along the railroad tracks, and it's just, eventually, it's just gonna fail. Because it's within 10 feet of the train, and it shakes, and it's under that stone, and we've had issues with it before, and that's why DEC has they haven't put us under consent yet, but they've been giving us warnings, do it, so.
Yeah.
I think Greenway wise, I wanna make sure that, whether it's trenched or not, I know a lot of people put a lot of years, a lot of work into that, and I know sometimes it's really hard to accomplish things here because of either naysaying or it fizzles out or whatever it may be, and it's been well taken care of by a lot of different parties. So I think I'd wanna manage yes, it'll be restored to the way it was, but make sure people know that the hard work done there was appreciated. And that this is a necessity, but it's going to be maybe even better, maybe some new trees, stuff.
Well, we
something like
talked
that.
about the possibility of restoring it. Could actually, there's a couple spots that are narrow along that path. We could actually, almost in a sense, get a chance to really do it right.
Well, the more thing about
if
too,
there are
the
details that need it.
a lot of trees do come down during storms that are
There's a lot
older
of
and
dead
dead.
trees that
Yes.
you could, do away with as you're doing that,
Yes.
it would help it.
Yeah, so initially my thought was, well, you don't wanna, but then I started to think more about, that actually might improve that part of the Greenway greatly, so I think I'd have to ask the Greenway Committee's opinion. I don't love the idea of digging up the northern leg, but I think in light of it, it would be, especially saving us money, the best way to go.
I mean, eventually this becomes another expense that we all shoulder.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure we do absolutely everything we possibly can, and then some, to make sure it's as low as it possibly can.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good to know too, a timetable on how long that process would
Yeah.
take.
It's a little bit over a year for the project, I think. So say for a minute we put the bid out in November, December. We would be likely approving the bid in March or April meeting. And I think that it would take about a year from that, from the
The
starting
shovels in the
point.
ground itself,
Shovels in the ground probably
that's
a
a year
month
apart?
later. And once that starts, the whole thing would be about a year.
Okay.
I guess I was thinking the Greenway part, what would the timetable be and how long that process
That
would take?
portion. That's the majority of the run, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and it depends on,
Yeah.
which way you decide to go. If you do the directional drilling, the greenway can still be used. From what I've been told, you can still use the greenway, it's not gonna be,
Right.
But obviously if you do the trenching, you're gonna have equipment down in there, and there's gonna be machines off to the side. That's the major part of the run, but it shouldn't take that long, because you don't have to worry about traffic, you don't have, they should be able to just dig and just lay pipe and keep going. But, yeah, I don't have any idea how long that would take, do you? I mean,
Depends on how fast they
Yeah.
wanna work.
depends on weather, I mean.
Well, it gives us time to finally get the money for the grant for the northern end of the Greenway and put it in the parking. Well, that's being done.
I guess my only concern is that, it does feel a bit like kicking the can down the road, and I agree with the general gist of trying to get a lower bid but there's a lot of work that has to be done to do that successfully. So putting the bid package back together, the actual way we want it done, the way that makes sense, the way that gives us a chance of lowering costs, is gonna take some work. And we're not gonna send that out in November if we start working on it in October.
How much would, if we were to go with it as is, how much of an impact will that have on water bills at this point? Ballpark average.
118?
I think
A
it's
year?
it's
A year or a bill?
A year.
A year.
Jeez, I might die.
A year.
A year, jeez.
$40 a bill, less than $40. I think the highest one we saw would be less than $40 a water bill.
let me
So-
bring up that
So
data, 'cause I
you
have
might
that.
lower it down to $35 a water. I mean, it's not gonna lower it to 10.
But they're saying
Not your water.
Yeah, the sewer, yeah.
The sewer portion
Thank
of
you.
the, but also it's to point out there were 30+ years of deferred maintenance on a lot of these things, right? Or maybe longer, yeah. I mean, not you guys, but I mean, it's
Yeah,
stuff
and it-
that's been let go, and it gets more and more expensive the
And
longer we
again,
go.
DEC's ready, and, I mean, I don't wanna call them up and say, do you guys mind if we wait and put it out to bid again? Cause I don't wanna answer to them, but they've been pretty lenient with us so far.
That should be him that does
Yeah,
that.
they've been pretty lenient with us so far, so.
But being realistic, that even after we go through this entire rebid process, it's gonna be $100 per bill. It's
Yeah,
not gonna be
Yeah.
40.
So can we can we move forward with this as is? Is that something we can do and not risk it costing even more?
We'd have to get confirmation. There's a 45-day window where they will hold the
bid may not
the
be
bid,
good right now.
and
Okay.
we'd have to get officially from the company saying even though we're past 45 days, yes, they would still hold. So there's a question there as well.
Because
feel-
we opened bids March 12th,
Yeah, I think so.
or the 22nd or something like that, so I know that, you know, they're not gonna wait until September for us to decide whether we want them to do the project or not, so,
Right.
you know.
I mean, I don't wanna increase any, but that's what it has, and that's the annoying reality of this.
Yeah,
Ken,
yeah.
just looking to the future, I know that, there's a grant for this disinfecting grant at some
Yep.
point. Disinfecting is gonna be mandatory
Yep.
for us. You have any idea how much that's gonna cost?
You know, I don't know, and that's, I wish, Rich DeWitt was here tonight, because Rich and I were talking about that yesterday, he didn't have a ballpark figure, but, in the long run, we're gonna have to disinfect, obviously, per New York State.
2022, I have that letter in
Yep.
my
And
files.
so I know that we wanna go with UV disinfection, but we have to, Rich was telling me yesterday, we have to look into other areas of disinfection, such as chlorine. Obviously UV disinfection is the way to go, you don't have chemical storage, you don't have to have, you know, any kind of chemicals on site, and, you know, storage for chemicals,
We're also limited by space down there.
limited by space,
And the UV
yes.
works better for the space
But
situation.
as for what it's gonna cost, I have no idea.
But the ideal situation is we get this grant together to figure out what we
Yes.
want, then we go for a grant to pay for that, and we've been doing this now, so when 2022 doesn't come around, we're all of a sudden going, oh crap, we need this, we gotta go out for a bond.
We're also
We're
trying
going
to
the
figure
grant,
out
the grant route.
property lines down there too, so we, you know.
I just worry overall that, a lot of people's taxes have gone up with the new revale.
Yep.
And, we're talking about tearing houses down on Hall Street, they'll be disconnected from our system and there'll be less and less people paying for it. We have zombie properties that, who knows what's gonna happen to, and we lose more and more housing and there'll be less and less people paying for.
And you're talking about making private property into municipal property, which will lower the amount of properties being taxed too. So you're really deteriorating the tax base because we don't have the manufacturing that paid a lot of the bills before. We're feeling the brunt.
Not only that, but the manufacturer that's been paying the bills is doing a lot less, when it comes to water and sewer than they have been. Which is another, way we've lost funding.
And while those true, the more though that we defer, the more it ends up costing us down the road too. So it's one of those,
Yep.
it's the necessary evils unless it's more evil down the road.
And yeah, and that's why, you know, even though we have probably like 10 or 11 grants going, we're still looking for grants to pay for that. We're still looking for ways to combat the zombie property issue, not just with Jason and his neat idea about going after that, but we've started to talk with the school and the town to get some grants and some programs together to try to rehab these and get these back up and back on the tax scale. So when we're losing, you know, 6 to 8 to 9 buildings, well, we're also getting them back by getting these buildings rehabbed, and that's the long-term path that we're on right now.
And while a much bigger place and much deeper problems, Detroit's had a good deal of success getting rid of a lot of properties because the inventory of what's available would draw people who are not as much of a contributor to the community, and it is a brief shrinking that is a little painful for the tax base, but down the road, the big picture is you'd rather buy a house that's next to not something that's falling in, or not something that's in that flood zone, or that people walked away from. So it's one of those growing pains. We have to shrink before we can grow, and it's how do we deal with these as we go.
What about, I know that, I believe it's a village law that anything over 2 units has to be owner occupied.
If it's converted, if it's non-existent.
I mean, I don't have a
Yes.
vested interest either way, it makes no difference to me, I'm just saying, I don't know if that would make any difference, if, you know, if you had one guy that came in and he wanted to buy 6 or 7 properties and he's gonna pay taxes for those 6 or 7 properties.
Generally, they're not,
Yeah, I
here
know,
or they're not,
but-
yeah. But that's part of it, is eliminating some of those, yeah. When we
So anyway,
eliminate some of those.
we're back to the sewer project. What are your thoughts on accept this bid, assuming that, with confirmation rather, that the bids stand, versus waiting? And I mean, this is a huge decision. I think this is like the big issue that not many people are aware of how big of it is, but we all have been talking about it for months.
I think it's
working on it for months.
Well, the reason our water sewer bills, et cetera, are so high is because things like this were put off and things like this were not acted on, and the longer it went unattended to, so I think it's important that we actually make a decision instead of waiting for the state to come in and say, too bad, you gotta do this right now.
Well, if the state
and you
comes
gotta
in,
do this
that
fine.
becomes an even bigger financial
Right.
issue, and there's more push. I
Yes.
don't, the question is not if we do this, the question is, do we do this bid, or do we try to put it out for bid? Again, and roll the dice and hope for a lower price with a bunch of options.
And one of the things I'll add is,
Please.
there's also a financing timeframe associated with this. The state has awarded zero interest financing for this, and then they did also award the grant. We were told yesterday that closing on the grant has to occur by April 15th of 2019 and roll that into the overall project financing. So there is a deadline that needs to be addressed. EFC was very good.
Yeah, they've really
They were
shown they're
very
gonna work with
flexible,
us.
they were very good, but that seemed to be a hard date with them. Because the concept of rebidding it, once we're talking about end of the year, that issue came up saying that, but there's a lot to get done in terms of reviewing the bids, making an award, and still meeting that April 15 timeframe to close on the grant. It's tight.
In my mind, my thought would be to rebid it. And I know it's a risk, it's a calculated risk. We only got 3 people come back. If we separate it into 2, we hopefully would get more people to put forward with it. And if they see it as 2, maybe they'll change their prices with the hopes that they get both. That's my, if I were voting right now, that would be my vote, is to do the calculated risk and try to go for a lower.
That's also my thinking. Just to rebid.
How long is it gonna take you to rebid, to rewrite these bids?
The bids, we've already talked about getting this ready, and we know that it's gonna be a process, so we're gonna make sure that it's ready to go right after Thanksgiving, because the money spot is between Thanksgiving and the New Year. We've already discussed that, we're gonna be moving on this, because this is a huge issue.
But if it's that huge, shouldn't we act on it now instead of waiting and taking the risk of it costing more? You know, doctor says, hey, you have cancer, you need to have surgery. You know, I'm gonna wait till December, cause I have a vacation in
To
September.
put it in real world terms, how much are we hoping
Yeah,
to
it's
save?
not wise.
That's, I mean, so if we put it out for rebid, that's, I don't know what a realistic number of what we're hoping to save is. You know, if it's a couple $100,000, might as well do it now. If it's $1 million, we'll rebid it, you know, somewhere in between there, there's a.
It'd be $1 million.
Right, I don't think it would, I don't think there's.
It would probably be a few $100,000. I would
Be a
think
few $100,000.
But it could be a few $100,000 more than what it is now too.
Construction
We don't
costs,
know.
steel, there could be steel tariffs on what
We don't know.
you know, I mean,
And that's
there's-
another question, is how will tariffs change things? That's something we talked about as well, because that's a very real thing. I mean, it's like federal government who, you know, blah, 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 but that's gonna trickle down.
I don't think you have enough time to rebid it and hit your financing deadlines.
So what do you think?
Ben, thoughts?
I think we should go now and not wait.
Well,
I'm clear, I think it should be
Yeah.
done now, I don't wanna repeat the mistakes we've made in the past where we've ended up with enormous bills because we
alright,
decided
then
to
I
wait.
guess for voting purposes, I'm looking for a motion that we would accept the bid now with the guarantee that.
Well, I would,
Get the guarantee first.
yes,
right?
I would
Yes.
suggest you need to reach out to the contractor, confirm its bid price.
Okay.
The other
And then
thing
that'll
that the,
give one, I don't know whether everybody here has had a chance to go through that bid in
I'm sure not.
enough detail. I mean, I've seen it, I've looked at it a couple times. I don't know whether Brian, Ben, Kevin, you know, I know.
So you're thinking basically we would get confirmation from them and come back in a
right,
week
and
with a
recall
special
the
meeting
other
for it?
thing that the board does need to do, well then, to do a new bond resolution. Because the price will go over the previous amount
Yes,
set
we will
forth
need
in the
that.
bond resolution, so that has to be prepared as well.
And
So
we
you're
need to know what
thinking-
that price is, we
That's
need to
correct.
go review the bid so we know what that price is.
We need to confirm with the bidder that the prices are still there,
Okay.
that'll guarantee the price, and review that and make sure that we draft a new bond resolution properly.
If they don't guarantee the price and the bid is higher, do you guys think that we then put it off and bid
That's a
again?
different discussion.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
it's a different discussion.
That's a whole different thing.
Okay. So then it looks like, I'm looking for motion to table this until we have some more information, and a special meeting will be held in probably a couple weeks, week or two.
Motion.
Second.
Alright, Ben and Brian, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alright, tabled. Thank you, Kenny and Neil, for all your contributions to that. The next thing we're gonna revisit the local law pertaining to the parking on Elm Street. We had talked about this earlier. Do you have a local law handy?
Yep.
Alright. Andy, do you wanna talk legally on any of this?
Sure, this was a local law proposed for parking restrictions on Elm Street, that was subject to the public hearing that was noticed. The board did move forward and adopt that, and it's been filed. The board always has the ability to amend its local law. It has to be done through the same process, which would be to introduce another local law to amend this, if the board chooses to do that, notice it, and then adopt that local law to amend. So procedurally, you go through the same process you did to amend a local law as you do to initially adopt.
Okay.
So I have just a question, I guess.
Yep.
So when we did this, we had legal advice that
Here, Craig.
that we needed to
Here's the law.
not address this on an individual property, but it needed to address
The block.
a area and cannot be directly in front of a property.
I did raise with you, the village has to be careful about adopting a parking restriction for the benefit of a single property owner.
Okay.
And so the board did discuss the length along Elm to regulate the parking. That can always be amended. I would still advise that the board should not be adopting parking restrictions for the benefit of a single business or property owner. You do need to look at this. It's a equal protection issue, it's a constitutional issue, and there are requirements on that. So if you're gonna amend this or revise it, you really should be looking at it on, if it's gonna be based on commercial, where along that particular stretch of road is appropriate for parking restrictions, and what would those parking restrictions be, but I do advise against a parking regulation particular to a single business.
Thank you. I just
So
wanted to.
aren't you better off than just saying 2-hour parking rather than specific?
Well, it's 2 hour parking.
It is
from
2
6
hours.
to
That's
6.
exactly what
Yeah.
the local law says, and that's how it was
6 a.m. to
drafted.
6 p.m.
But just a
2
note
hours.
of, it is zoned commercial industrial. I lived in downtown Troy for a long time, and I had, during weekdays, every 2 hour parking where it was a pain and I had to go out and move my vehicle.
Okay. But I have something to say. I've come since friggin' December and specifically said, I would like it in front of my business. The rest was residential. The one I couldn't come to because I got out of work at 7:30 today was the last one where this decision was made. There was never talk about the entire street. I specifically, at every meeting, asked that it not be in front of the residential places, and I get that it's for a business. I happen to be out of the business district, which stops at Blue Flame.
That
So,
was only-
you know what, if it's gonna, I got jumped because of this.
It's on the zone.
And this is ridiculous, that, you know, I mean, I've been here for 20+ years. And the fact that none of this was discussed at any of the other 5 or 6 meetings, which, by the way, I lost money to come here to these meetings to make more money to pay for more taxes. You know, I'm quite frustrated, very
Well,
frustrated.
It's inappropriate for anyone to jump you about this, and you should obviously point them to us.
I
because we have
did.
a decision to make it.
But none of that was ever discussed in the 5 meetings prior to that. I was extremely specific and nobody said, well, you know, we're gonna do both sides of the street, and we're gonna go up to the corner, and I had specifically asked that it not go up to the corner because he lives there. It's his home.
And we came up with that.
I
As I
had
said
spoken to
earlier,
that.
we came up with a solution, well, just have the 2 hour parking, whatever, from the end of our property to the railroad tracks, and everybody's happy.
Oh, sorry. Supposed to hold that?
Okay, going back to the residential
Yeah.
Okay,
versus.
so hang on a second. Okay, let's just think about this for a second. Okay, This is a-
Constitutionally speaking, we can't make exceptions to what's established at that level, so it has to be all of it or none of it, we're correct?
If there's an area
It's putting us
along
at
the
risk.
stretch, you can
Yes.
identify an area along any particular public road, but there has to be a reasonable basis for that. It could be commercial, but singling out a single business
Right, it has to
is,
be the whole,
it doesn't need to be a whole street, it can be focused on a certain business area. These are routinely done for business districts, ends at the end of the business district, wouldn't affect residential. When you've got mixed,
So you could extend the business district up over.
Well, hold on, hold a minute. Let
Terry,
someone
it's,
speak,
it's
please.
zoned
Someone
to
speak.
First Street,
right.
that is business district.
And if there were a business district that were regulated for parking and it were extended to include an additional business adjacent to the, what is designated as a business district, that would not be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that can be considered by the board. The issue about singling out a particular business for parking restrictions does raise an issue, and the board was aware of that, correct?
Could we
Well,
do
what's
it,
the issue? What, if I can ask, what is the issue? If it raises an issue, what is the issue?
because it's passing a law just for one property owner, for one
But I
person
thought
specifically.
the whole thing that he had said at the meeting, the last meeting I was at, is it would set a precedent for you to be able to do 2-hour parking for other businesses.
No, actually, what was said was, this would open up the village board to a request by every individual business owner to have parking restrictions in front of their business. And that's the issue, is singling out a particular property owner and using municipal power to benefit a single business. The board does have a duty to look at overall zoning, overall business uses, and regulate that parking restrictions accordingly. So there are options the board can look at here.
Right now, what's the signage that's up?
Right now, the only sign up is in front of Terry's place.
Okay, so,
And in theory, to extend, by law, it
By law,
extends all
should be
the
down
way
front of-
down.
It should.
Have you gotten a parking ticket?
Well, I was gonna say, who's gonna call the police to enforce it other than Terry?
Right.
Technically, I'm
So-
not saying we.
yeah, I
can
right
also-
now, for signage wise and
Yeah.
for the simplicity of it, it's signed the way you guys intend it to be. And that gives us the time to figure out legally what we have to do, because it's not just we're gonna zone this one spot, because it becomes a constitutional issue, discrimination issue, zoning issue,
Correct.
because the wonderful ways our laws are written. It is what it is. So right now, it's signed the way you guys want it.
How's it working practically?
Honestly, since I started coming to the meetings, I think it scared his tenants enough that they finally.
We've been talking.
Right.
I mean,
We're
I
good
went to
neighbors,
him
we talk to each other.
before I ever came to the board, because they were,
They wouldn't
So
listen to
it's
me.
working good.
yes.
So it's working.
Can we do
That's been
a,
working for a few months now.
can we
Okay.
change this to a permit zone where your tenants have it or you do and you have a visitor permit that whether they put out there or not, they're allowed to
No.
be there?
A visitor permit?
No,
What's a
no.
visitor permit on what? For like the shop?
It's just a thought.
But it's not they have to go and put it there, it's just a, they're allowed to be here type thing, is that something by permit only type thing? His tenants, they're allowed there, it's a red, no, okay.
So practically speaking, today, tomorrow, there's not gonna be an issue. You're not gonna go home and have a ticket on your car, and your clients can park where they need to park.
That's up to you, because the law is on the books that
Yes.
says they can tow my vehicle.
Right.
Yes.
So right now, I'm up
Right.
in the air, because the police don't know what you
No,
said in this
that's-
meeting.
We'll make sure that the police understand that we're working on the situation there, and to follow the signage as it is right now. And that gives us the time to figure out how to do this in a way that makes the most sense and legally is proper and protects everyone.
Right, which brings me to the point you said it's still commercial.
Mm-hmm.
When I bought
Commercial
that
industrial.
property and put the second apartment in, this is decades ago. I put the second apartment in, he said, well, we want you to change it to a residential in your zoning. In order to do this, I said, fine. So I bought the place on the corner, they said became residential. Now you're telling me it's commercial,
So there's,
industrial?
what the difference is, it's zoned commercial industrial, but your properties would be known as what's known as a non-conforming property. So our whole village has been zoned, I don't have the non-conformings on here.
Oh, right.
But The whole village has been, when it was rezoned as single family, meaning anything that is more than that is non-conforming, but they are grandfathered exceptions. It doesn't change the zone you're in, correct, Andy? It's a non-conform, it's an exception, it is a trailer in the village is an exception, it's non-conforming property.
If you're using your property for a use, that's not allowable in that zoning district. But it was there legally prior to the adoption of the zoning, it's legally allowed to continue.
Right.
It's called a non-conforming use, or generally called, it's grandfathered. And that use is allowed to continue, even though it's not
But also
complying with
across
the
the
zoning.
street was always residential.
So let's go back to the parking issue.
Yeah. I think what we need to do is we need to put our minds together and figure out how to amend this law, or come up with a completely different replacement law. And we will run it by you guys, just like we have been working with you to get this to happen. It happens. Like with the local law previously, it will be available for anyone to read. We'll have a public hearing on it and all that stuff. We'll make sure that information is all out there, and we'll get this right. In the meantime, the signage will stay exactly as it is because that works for you guys. And there will be no enforcement in front of your house or across the street.
Where is this going to be put out? You say it'll be put out.
Standard village meetings, when we put our agenda, we'll put it out there. I can reach out to you or both of you if you want and say, this is what we're looking at right now, this is when it's gonna be discussed, just so you guys have that.
Neil, is there room on
And you can always
Railroad
email
Ave
me to
next
find
the
out what's
building?
going on with it.
Is Railroad Ave wide enough on the south side of Terry's building to park along there?
No.
Well, and people try to, and I tell them to move their vehicle because
Okay.
they're gonna get hit by the train.
It's not wide enough then, okay, so
And
we
it's
couldn't
a
make
through
that
street.
the parking, no
And
parking
that's
area.
actually not even a real street.
Alright, so
It doesn't exist.
we're set for now. Signing is just gonna change. There's gonna be no enforcement of this law in that section where in your house and across the street, and we will come up with our fix for this. Alright, great. Alright, thank you. We already discussed Hayseed 3 and Youth Center, so we're on to new business. The first thing I'm looking for is a motion to collect the 2018 property taxes dated June 1st, 2018 to July 9th of 2018 in the amount of $1,054,009.01 and unpaid services totaling $433,825.30.
Motion.
Second. Ben, second, I'll give that one to Craig. Any comments on this? This is sort of standard procedure. Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do you have the, do we have the easement handy, or the easement amendments?
Yes, we do.
Alright.
Yep.
Do I need to read that? Or is it, we're just getting authorization for me to
Just
sign it?
authorization
Okay.
to sign that.
Looking for a motion to authorize myself, Mayor Allen, to sign an easement amendment between the Village of Hoosick Falls and National Grid relating to the sewer project.
Motion.
Thank you, Craig.
Second.
Second, Brian. Do you wanna briefly,
Right, in connection with the sewer project, in National Grid reviewing this, they realized one easement which has been in place for decades, but based on the updated survey work, needed to be amended. That's all that is. MRB did prepare the amended descriptions. They are attached to the easement prepared by National Grid to amend it, and that's the extent
you
of it.
reviewed it and it's all good?
I reviewed the form of the amendment to the easement, that's fine, and confirmed yesterday with MRB that they in fact did prepare the descriptions.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Alright, we have a resolution which will reject the RFQ submitted by B&L, Barton and Judith, pertaining to the Woodsbrook block grant. Do we have that resolution?
Yeah, it's right here.
Yes,
Alright, thank you, Andy, you're working midnight oil on
I
this.
gave those copies to you, each for the board, yep.
Do I have one? Somewhere maybe?
I have.
This comes from the fact that B&L put out an RFQ for the CDBG grants, got it, thank you. That's an extra, I'll take it. And only one person replied, this is in Mechanicville, and CDBG said, no, we're not gonna accept that, you need to put it back out and put more effort into going for the grant, so we are looking to, reject it, and does this also put it back out? Can I just read the now therefore part?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so this is the rejection of bid and authorization to rebid for engineering design services for the Woodsbrook Drainage Improvements Project funded through CDBG program. Again, this is the one with the town up on the hill. Now therefore be it resolved by the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls in regular session duly convened as follows. 1. The Village of Hoosick Falls hereby rejects the bid submitted by Barton and Judas for engineering design services in connection with the Woodsbrook Drainage Improvements Project, as described herein, on the sole basis that the village seeks to obtain additional bids for such services and not on the basis of any content of the Barton and Ledudas bid as submitted. And 2, the Village of Hoosick Falls hereby authorizes the solicitation of bids for engineering design services in connection with the Woodsbrook Drainage Improvements Project as described herein, to provide for a bid period of 4 weeks, to advertise the solicitation for such bids in a local newspaper weekly for such 4 weeks, for such 4-week bid period, and to further advertise such solicitation at least once in an additional newspaper in the Capital District area during such 4-week bid period, and to undertake any and all efforts to seek bids for the engineering design services described herein from minority and women-owned business enterprises. Roll call vote, please. Oh, do we need a motion?
We need someone to offer it.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Wait, who offered the motion?
Ben?
Motion.
Motion, thanks
Second.
Ben. Second, Brian. Apparently we're all new here. Okay, roll call vote.
Roll call, Craig.
Aye.
Brian.
Aye.
Aye.
Ben.
Yes.
Alright.
How much
Great.
is this grant for?
This is the 900 and it's another 900 that something number. I think it's a 900,000 even one. I think it's $900,000
Possibly, or
even,
the
right? Alright. Yeah. Alright. Okay, thank you. We have a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a 1-year extension with County Waste beginning June 1st, 2018, running through May 31st, 2019, with a 2.5% increase to the current rate, which came out to $344 a month. Do I have that resolution?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Do I need to read the resolution?
Do we have a
Do we have a resolution on that one?
But before we do, is there anything?
I don't think it's a resolution, we're just looking for a motion.
Is there anything in this that would relate to what Jason brought up earlier, where we don't, is there anything in that agreement where we have to bill a property regardless of, I just
No,
wanna
that's
make sure
us.
before we do, that
That's
that's,
village.
so that's totally up to
That's
us then?
separate?
Yeah.
Oh, so we can just not do that for him then?
Yep.
Or just do?
Well,
No,
we need
we
to
have
come
to.
with a policy for him
Right.
and the 5 or 6 others who
Okay.
have that situation.
I just wanted to double check that.
Yep.
So,
Alright.
no, nothing else.
So this is not a resolution, we're looking for a motion to authorize the mayor to sign, so misprint on the agenda, this is a motion looking to authorize.
I think the last time we put that out to bid, the next bidder was $10,000 more than
Yeah, yeah,
anyway, so.
yeah. Who made the
I made
motion?
the motion.
Alright, Ben did, and it was seconded,
Kevin
Kevin.
and Ben.
Alright, any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, great. We have a request from the State of New York Unified Court System for a recent audit or examination, fiscal year ending in 2018, of our local courts records. So we basically need to pick someone to do this. I think we should choose between anyone who has the title deputy mayor. Any thoughts on that?
I agree.
Bobby's done this in the past, so I think he would be volunteering to do this. I think we'll pick Bobby to do
Hear
this
that,
again.
Bobby?
I'll be so excited.
Yeah, right?
Alright.
That's why I don't miss meetings.
One more issue, and this is what we may have to, we're gonna probably discuss.
Oh, Lord.
I know it, I know you're excited about that. Motion to waive the water charge in the amount of $33.02, sewer charge in the amount of
I
$34,
just realized
and
what that is.
refuse charge in the amount of $46.
That
The water
address
was
is
shut off,
on
and we'll
here.
get there,
Yeah.
at 15 Church Street,
Mhm.
due to a water break and property, was vacant. Now, I'm gonna just say for the record, that we are handling this situation as a situation, we're not handling anything else. We're just looking at the situation for what it is, and that's it. So the situation was, there was a water, break. The water break happened before it got to the meter. This was the water that leaked, through 15 Church Street's basement into, the neighboring property owner's basement as well, and caused some damage in there. The owner of 15 Church Street is, asking for us to waive the water fee and sewer fee, which, with the idea being, since the water has been turned off, we apply a normal general usage when it's turned off, and the owner would like
It was
to have-
estimated because there was no reading.
right, it was estimated because there's no rating, he would like that waived, and additionally, he would like the refuse charge waived because he was not in the area in these past few months. So.
So let me get the water part straight. The water line from the street broke on his property in front of the meter?
It doesn't, that
No,
doesn't
it
matter.
broke near
Inside the basement.
inside the basement, but
After-
just before
after-
it gets to the meter.
So then how come there's a water charge at all if it's before the meter?
Because in situations like that, they estimated general usage.
Because there was no reading, it was estimated.
But that's his
Okay.
responsibility.
From actually the
To the
main
road, right?
onward, right?
Now, there's a side issue with this. All of that water that leaked was not caught via the meter. So there was a significant amount of water, and I know because I got to see it when I went down there, and at least I got to see it in the neighbor's yard, that was not metered because the break
Yeah.
happened before the meter.
Right, so what are we waiving? We're waiving the estimated
He
water
wants us to
usage
waive the
that's
estimated water usage.
artificially low to begin with.
I don't know how much, and
It's lower than a full basement. Is what
34,
Tiny will imply.
33.
it could be. I don't know how much water flow is, how much how many basements $33 of water would fill. I don't know that.
I don't wanna find out either firsthand.
So what would the water bill have been for that property if this didn't happen?
Probably around there.
So we're given a free month basically because of
Free
they had a
3
water
months.
leak.
4 months.
Because the
That's
water,
what the
regular
asking was for.
Can I make a motion so we can get this on the table?
Andy, do you have any other comments on this?
Cause I already am,
I
I'm,
understand that.
yeah, I'm done with this.
Completely up to the board's discretion.
I think it sets a bad precedent.
This may be something that the board may consider to table and review while we're working through some global issues.
Okay.
This particular owner.
Global.
That's a very political way to put that.
I'm okay with
All
tabling it
encompassing.
or denying it.
Yeah, I'm a hell
Either
no, I'm not
one.
just a no, so we can table it if we like,
What are
but.
you guys' thoughts on this?
I think
Table
we
it
should
or?
table it just to- there's a
Andy
there's a
would
bigger
suggest table,
issue. There's a
alright.
bigger
Okay.
issue.
I would also
Alright.
be in favor of tabling the issue, so I'm looking for a motion to table this.
Simply for 1
Second.
month to your July
Simply
meeting.
to
Yeah.
the July meeting, okay.
That's fine.
Who made the motion, I'm sorry?
Craig,
Craig
I
and
second.
Brian seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion to go into executive session.
Motion.
Rob, before we do that,
Yes.
one other thing, I know the meeting's been long.
No motion.
Oh,
Resident was concerned about Church Street and Main Street by Stewart's. I think, Neil, we talked about this years ago. When you're backing out of Stewart's on to Church Street,
Vacation.
the
Vacation
cars
time,
park
I know.
right up until the
They got
Stewart's
it.
parking lot.
Yeah,
You
we
can
gotta
see
discuss
the
that.
cars
We
coming
need
down
to
the street.
discuss that.
Wasn't there once a yellow,
Yes.
I think we should revisit that.
What are we?
Ballard, whatever it's called.
The-
Draw a
the
line
curb
at
road.
Stewart's property.
Well, we should
coming
probably
out Main Street.
reevaluate actually that whole
Well-
traffic pattern anyway, cause the parking and one way, maybe
There
look at
should
one
be a-
way.
New York State law on parking on intersections anyways. And plus, seeing new owners took over that apartment house, they should have off-street parking for them 3 apartments that's in that building.
Which location is this?
Next to
And
Stewart.
it
Next
just
to
so happens I was setting,
Church Street.
Going
I
down
was
there.
setting at my father-in-law.
Yes.
You're pulling out, you
the
can't
other
see
day.
cars coming down.
Yes, that is a nasty
Yeah.
spot.
Probably got a picture of me back in the park.
No,
Oh, that's not supposed to be there.
this is a situation that
Whoa.
occurred,
Can you,
Doesn't
can you
belong
pass
in
that
that
over?
picture.
so.
Well, I mean, Neil, is that, I think for a longer discussion at some point, looking at Church Street being one way north there because of the parking, visibility pulling out of Cary Ave, I know that can be,
Was he
you know,
parked?
make, and kind of
The tractor trailer was trying to get
coordinate
around that
the
corner.
loop there to be.
Because he could.
Parked there.
The other,
That car
the
should
I
other-
think we
parked
should look
there.
at that as one
No.
part of all this, right?
That
the
car
other
shouldn't
issue
be
is on
there.
Main and Willard.
Yes, the same thing.
You can't see cars coming up.
Willard should actually be one way going to church where you've got,
Let's talk about one project.
no, this is related to
Well,
that.
we're talking about, Willard isn't at Stewart's, is it?
Yes.
Willard, but also, and,
You can't move
You
because
really
that
can't
car's.
Walton.
make Willard Street a one-way.
Thank you.
what if Walton's going the other way and Willard is the opposite?
No.
No. But at least Church Street and,
You know,
Alright, so
the main issue with,
which one?
take down the one on the corner of Cary and, Church Street, and then make that a parking lot, and then you wouldn't have that problem.
Hoping one of those trucks loses its brakes right at that house.
I have to,
Well,
I
it
have
would
to
make-
move
it would
this
make
on
off-street
because I need
parking
to.
from
But I think it's a
that
broad
line.
discussion we should probably have
Yeah.
about some of our traffic patterns in the village and.
We do have one more item to
visibility.
discuss. The email that we handed out and got ready for you for the vacation time that was not used by the office staff. Do you have that handy?
Yes.
I need to see one. I don't. Do you have one? Do you have it handy here?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
And my apologies for not getting this out sooner because this was brought to my attention a week ago. And this comes to unused days. Okay. Unused days of vacation because of all the insanity that's been going on in the office. Andy, have you seen this?
I have not.
Alright.
So we have
Here, here's this one.
employees with a lot of vacation time and the
yeah.
village has a use it or lose it policy. And no wiggle room for carryover. Or,
Well, you've got somebody that's got 6 weeks, would you carry over more if you can't use 6 weeks?
I mean, I know
Maybe
what
we're
it,
given
But you
too many
see,
weeks.
I guess the whole point of this is, like I said, I went on vacation on May 5th and came back the 12th, and that was the worst thing I ever could have done because of the timing of the billing
Yep.
and the invoicing and all that. When is the good time to take a vacation?
One of the
It's
things
very hard here.
very hard. I don't understand is why there's such a hard coded it has to be done by this time if the times don't make sense seasonally.
yeah.
Like if there was a
In there it
policy
doesn't.
where, you could carry over a week of vacation for an extra 2 months, because I know there's workplaces that have policies like that.
I mean, we
And for
should
some
revise
situations
those.
that would work. For other situations with Neil and his guys, it may not work because
Well,
of the season.
Yeah, you've
Well,
got it,
it's
for
not so
instance,
much
was it last year or
most
year
of my
before?
guys, it's myself,
You couldn't take it.
you know.
Was it a year, 2 years?
16, 17.
Yeah.
Now, last year you had Josh because Jim hurt his.
Jim heard it, yeah. Jim was out and Josh had to do
So
it.
Josh didn't get to
instead-
take his time.
Instead
So
of
we
us sitting
we
around,
Yeah.
reimbursed him.
Yeah.
you know, it's probably something that should be hashed out with, not here tonight, but,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
And I think within each area, it needs to be
Yeah.
hashed out, because the office staff may have a different approach than you guys, and maybe different from Mark, but I don't like the hard-coded policy.
And let's
I
give
feel
up,
like there could be flexibility that just works for all parties.
and let's come up a year ago, and I said we need to, we had a vote on something similar a year ago, that we need to be an employer people want to work for, and our employees are excellent and work for, they could get paid a lot more somewhere else, but they have pride in our village, and I think we need to do more of these things to,
So,
so
let
why
them
don't,
know
why
we
don't we
appreciate
ask them
them.
what they would like to do?
yeah,
I think what they would like to do is they'd like to be paid for the time that they did not spend.
yeah.
Can we just review our policy? I think we have that.
We do need to review the
Yeah.
policy for a
Yeah.
future meeting.
So July review.
Do you guys wanna vote on this now, or do you wanna table it?
I'd like to make a motion to approve paying these amounts here for the office staff, and then review the policy.
Okay, so it'd be for Denise, for Judy, and for
Shouldn't we
Ann.
review the policy first so we know if we're violating it?
What's that?
Shouldn't
we
we
can
re-
pay out,
Shouldn't we review the policy first before we
Yes.
do it?
No, we can pay for
Use
a
it or
vacation.
lose it.
Yeah,
It's very simple.
the policy's use or lose it, so we can pay
We know
out
what the
we pay
policy
out.
is,
Yeah.
that's, and this is, I mean, last year we did it with Josh, 2 years ago it was with a.
No, this is a pay
Okay.
them now, but then look at it later, so a year from now, we're
Yeah.
not.
That's
My
what the policy
suggestion is that the village buy a condo on some island.
Hey,
And
there's
We'll get right
nothing
on
down the
that.
when
river,
it's the
Ann.
winter weather and there's not a lot of
Get
work
right on
here,
that.
we
Yeah.
can take 3 weeks of
Brian, did you wanna make
vacation.
your motion?
I did.
To pay for the three as,
Is it 3 or 4?
well, the first number is the total, what's the total, 2,000?
$2,948.55
For the three office
for Denise,
employees.
Judy, Ann. But what about Marie?
No,
She's part
she's
Okay,
part-time.
okay, so those 3.
Alright,
just to be
need a
specific.
second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Looking for a motion to go into executive session for
Motion.
updates
I
on
have
pending
a
litigation with
question
no other business
before
to be
you do that.
discussed. Can it be super fast? Cause I
Yes,
really
it's
have to
gonna
make
be
a call.
super fast, I just wanna weigh in, cause I wasn't able to be here about the dog park, would also be adjacent to my mother's property, which has recently been very nicely cleaned up down below, but now everyone can see up. And I would suggest that that dog park go across the road instead of adjacent to our properties.
The problem being is across the road is where the softball, baseball folks wanna put their prime
That'll be a new
field.
field there, yeah.
Well,
And that they've been looking to do that for a while, but I understand and
yeah,
we get the message.
yeah, so please make sure that's out and about too, so I can
Alright.
be present if possible.
Alright, motion for executive session for updates and pending litigation with no other business to be discussed.
Thank you.
Ben,
Second.
Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, 9:06, going to executive session.
Did you guys have an extra agenda?